Welcome back once again to Kevin Pollak's Chat Show. I am, as always, the owner of this cup. How are you? You don't write? You don't call? If I may, what the fuck is your problem? The buffering gag works so very well for those watching the show. Those of you merely listening, you just think something went wrong with your equipment, and I apologize for that. But I promise you, the visual on the buffering gag, hilarious.
Every time.
We've got this fake wheel spinning on the screen, as if... Sammy, how are you?
I'm so great, Capo. How you
Your
doing?
Cubs are playing my Giants, and I ask you this.
As we speak.
I ask you this.
Yeah.
Do not talk about it. Is that possible?
I mean, it's nothing right now. You know, bottom of the
What are you
third
doing?
with
You're
a runner
doing the
on.
exact
What?
thing that I just asked you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Was I?
Not to...
I thought you meant after this, back and forth.
Now, what's this about you being in the final series finale episode of Warehouse 13?
Well, I received a lovely offer from them to appear in the finale. It's going to shoot next month. I'm excited. It's a great show. I've seen a bunch of episodes.
Of course, knowing you as I do, you said yes before reading the material. But now that you've read it...
I said yes before finding out what show. It could have been on Playboy Network.
Sammy would like you to, yes. Is that how the conversation went?
Pretty much, no. It shoots up in Toronto.
I'll say.
So if all three of my Toronto fans want to greet me at the airport,
want to have a tweet up?
Tweet up at the Tim Hortons at the Toronto airport, that'd be fine.
You know there are 7 Tim Hortons in the Toronto
No.
airport.
But everyone knows the Tim Hortons.
Oh,
there's
sure.
others,
Sure.
but there's the one.
The original.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I'll
That's
be there.
exciting. When does that go? Shoot?
Sometime in August.
Sometime in August?
Yeah.
I see. So they've narrowed you down to a month.
I don't like to give away my exact time and whereabouts.
Oh, when you'll be?
Yeah.
There's no chance you'll be at the Four Seasons in Toronto. Because that's normally where it's not important. Jamie?
Hi.
How are you today?
I'm pretty good.
All right.
I'm glad that this is, people are still watching video, I will have you know. And this is because I got recognized again.
You got recognized from this show.
Yes, again. And
here-
this is twice in like 10 days, which is like, that's it now for the rest of the year.
Let's give it a
It's not gonna
qualifier,
happen.
because this is an important qualifier. You were by yourself.
I was by myself.
When you're with me in the
at
shadow
LAX.
of the title of the show,
Yes.
then they'll drag you into the recognition.
But once again,
by
of course,
yourself,
I can't remember the person's name. I'm terrible. I need
Filbert.
to start writing this.
That's the kind of love you have for your fans who approach you on the street.
I'm terrible. But no, I was in LAX, and I was waiting for a flight to go back to my hometown of Pittsburgh, and this gentleman is also from Pittsburgh, and he was there with his wife and their little baby, and they were traveling back to their hometown, and they live here now. And he's like, are you the original Jamie Foxx? And I'm like, yes, I am.
Yeah, the original.
I am the original, not Eric Bishop.
Right. And how was the recent trip back home? You just were there for...
It's pretty good, very humid.
I'm sorry?
I forgot about humidity. It was very humid.
Oh, my.
Yes.
Cut it with a knife.
But no, it was good. I got to go to Kennywood, my hometown amusement park. I got to eat all my garbage food that I wanted, my hot dog shop and my permanis sandwich and everything. So yeah, it was good.
Hank's custard.
Hank's, yeah, my Hank's
Tacos,
taco.
custard.
I ate so many nachos, it became like Homer and the Forbidden Donut. Like my idea of hell now is like just like people handing me nachos. But then again, I ate nachos again yesterday for lunch, so I guess I can't get it up.
Uh-oh. You can take Jamie out of Pittsburgh, but you can't get the nachos
I
out
like
of her
my
hand.
garbage food. I like good food too.
Anything else to report?
That's all I got for you.
What
Really?
about Kansas City, Kevin? We're just
Sammy,
gonna bury
you
that?
and I were just... I was about to get to that.
All right, just
The
making
fine
sure.
folks of Kansas City have a place there called Children's Mercy Hospital, don't you know? And Sammy and I were in our third of the 4 annuals that the Rudd, the Wriggle, and the Sudeikis, all from the area, put on this thing. We raised $738,000 in
Just
a
the two of
weekend.
us. Just you and I.
Just Sam and I, on the back of Sam and I. No, the efforts of the show, the big auction, the big poker tournament, and the...
Wiffle ball.
Wiffle ball.
Yep.
Although I'm not sure how that raised money.
I think the portion of the tickets for the game for the people who come and watch that day.
Oh, fantastic.
I think that's how they do it.
Yeah. It is a great, great cause. You start off on the flying Thursday night, in Sammy's case, Thursday morning, but Friday, you start with a visit to the Children's Mercy Hospital. And the look on the kid's face, it carries you, and the purpose of why you're there through the weekend. Because, to be honest with you, the majority of the weekend is just drunken tomfoolery on the celebrities' parts.
Yeah.
We come in, and what's funny is you get on the Southwest flight, from Los Angeles nonstop to the Kansas City. And everyone on the plane who's basically going home is like, why is part of show business on this flight? It's a very surreal thing for them, or, as they made clear to us, those of us on the plane. I mean, the Sudeikis and the Olivia Wilde now engaged is enough. That's enough.
Sure.
And then you put in a dollar.
Throw in your Kevin Pollak, your Sarah Chalk, your
Sarah
Wilmer Valderrama,
right?
your Damon Wayans Jr.,
Yeah.
your Angela Kinsey.
These things make
What is
for
this flight?
Yeah, why is this happening?
What is this flight?
Yeah, and then we were all debating which one of us would be the first asterisk
You're right.
after Sudeikis and Wilde. Who would be the first asterisk?
Horrific crash.
Also on flight, Jew. Would it just say
That Jew.
That Jew. That was on the back of my jersey. We got to say what was on the back of our jersey because we actually play in a little Wolfball game before the Kansas City Royals play. On the back of your jersey, Sam, said
Lil Wolverine.
Lil Wolverine,
Finally.
the nickname given by Doug Benson in his wonderful podcast. And then mine just said That Jew. We got to pick our number, too. I wanted 1-800 That Jew. And they came out 8, the number 8. Not sure they got the joke.
You can't trust Riggle to get those right. It took him 3 years to get mine right.
So what an incredible thing to be a part of.
True.
It really is amazing
It is amazing.
to raise that kind of money and see the difference it makes at that hospital. Pretty fantastic. And the fine folks at Kansas City, thanks again for the barbecue. Can never get enough of that.
Yeah.
Also, when you get off the plane, you have to register. Do you like this place or that place for the barbecue? Because we're very religious about it here.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was.
Oh,
The
perfect.
alarm next door has gone off again. Those of you wondering if that's crickets that sing just straight through.
Since
Yes.
we may edit this out, I'll just say, if you're interested at all, I believe you can donate online, bigslickkc.org.
Okay.
I believe. is the website.
BigSlickKC.org.
I
If
believe
you want
that's
to
what it
continue
is.
donating money, and we'll go to the,
one of the most worthy causes I know of.
I want to hear the story about how Sam inevitably had a system for why he had to go through airport security before everyone else, and then therefore did not get the private walkthrough.
and frisked. He got the stripped down
I
frisk.
had no system whatsoever. I was going through with PJ and
PJ, also known as.
Johnny Knoxville.
All right.
And this right here is my guaranteed secondary screening since I grew it.
Really?
100%.
They don't assume Jew. They say possibly Arab.
He looks.
got a beard.
Anything. If you're even a hint of Middle Eastern, you're getting secondary screening.
What do you think happens to like Jason Mantzoukas?
No, Mantzoukas.
We've been with him.
Last year, when we went through and Jason Mantzoukas went through after us, we did do a very stupid thing. Check him.
Check him. Make
Yeah,
sure you
that
get
was
him.
not
Oh yeah, no,
helpful.
it's not fun.
No.
You cannot TSA people do not like when you joke with them or even
I
look
think
them in the eye.
I think it's part of the interview. They tell them a joke. If they laugh, they don't get the job.
Yeah.
If they don't laugh and don't get the joke, then please this way put on this outfit. How you watching us? We always like to hear from you. Let us know how you're consuming this particular program. Contact at kevinpollak'schatshow.com. Contact at kevinpollak'schatshow.com. The very first live on-stage recording of my other podcast here in Los Angeles called Talkin' Walkin', where I ramble as Christopher Walken for an hour, and I promise you it's the stupidest shit you'll ever see in your life. Takes place August 1st, Thursday, if you're in the Los Angeles area, in the Santa Monica burg, at a place called West Side Comedy Theater. Dana Gould, always delightful, warped, if you're lucky, is my guest. It's my dinner with Andre, only Andre inexplicably speaks only as Christopher Walken. And just wanted you to know, we're going to do one of the first and third Thursdays there is what we're going to do. John Lovitz will be our guest next week here on the live proceedings of this particular show.
I won't be quoting the critics the entire time at
Not
all.
at all. Not at all. Can I just float this out there?
Please.
Since we haven't gotten to the guest yet, do we maybe want to pause until
With the
that
crickets?
goes away?
With the
For
nonstop
crickets?
cricket?
Yeah.
I assumed that everyone would get used to it.
I mean, I'm used to it. We're right here.
My problem is it went off before the show started.
Right.
And then it stopped.
Yeah.
And we were holding for it.
Yeah.
Now that it's gone off again, I fear it may continue. So I say the show must go on,
Here's to that.
and then allows the audience to yell at us, either live or after the fact.
Yeah.
Hey, fuckers, why would you?
Yeah.
All right. Are you enjoying the show on earwolf.com, the best damn comedy podcast out there? iTunes, YouTube. How the fuck are you watching the show? Please let us know. And if you want to win your own t-shirt like our guest receives in his gift bag today, send in your Larry King game to contact@kevinpollakschatcher.com. All right, I think we've covered all the business, and it's time to introduce our guest. I love his new show, but I was also a fan of his previous efforts, even dating back to the Star Trek Deep Space Nine. I'm excited as hell to first just talk William Shatner for a couple of minutes. Please welcome Bryan Fuller. Hello, sir.
Hello, how are you?
I'm kicking life square in the nuts. Thanks very much for asking. Now,
I'm glad to witness that.
yeah, the research suggests that you first got hooked, or maybe it was just in an interview or somewhere you said, if you had to choose your favorite incarnation of Star Trek, it still goes back to the original TV series.
Yeah, I think that's the one that kind of got it all started and also got me started.
Gene Roddenberry.
Gene Roddenberry, William Shatner, Leonard Nimoy, the whole kit and caboodle.
Yeah. Now, when you say got you started, do you mean thinking in terms of what I might do with my career, life, or just what is this fascinating world I'm seeing?
It just pleased me
Yeah.
to look at it.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was kind of one of those early fetishistic awakenings of this pleases me to look at, so I couldn't stop looking.
And your first attraction was this other world that's being depicted, or the potential camp that is William Shatner as Captain Kirk? Because I remember watching it at a very young age, thinking and saying, I think, to my friends, hey, you guys, at age 10 or 11, the guy playing Captain Kirk, he's crazy, right?
Oh, yeah.
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 So I don't want to assume that's everyone's reaction, that you, or because like in episodes of City on the Edge of Forever, there are moments where you're just lost in this world, and that's the best thing the show has to offer.
Well, it does. It's transportive. It's kind of
Yeah.
the Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
It allows you to tell stories in a way that aren't contained by reality, and actually the toys were the thing that got me into it, and then I was like, oh, there's purpose behind these toys.
Right.
And reason to play with them and buy them. And my brother, who is a model builder, was flying a Klingon battleship down a dark hallway in our home with the light that he had fixed on it, and that was my first taste of Star Trek before I ever watched it. And I was like, what is this magical thing that you're holding, and where does it come from?
Why is that happening?
Yes.
Now, you mentioned Twilight Zone. Were you a fan of that as well?
Huge,
Right.
huge.
Well, we are as well here.
What's your favorite episode?
Okay, excellent question. My favorite episode happens to be, Jamie, you'll know the name, and you might know the name as well, but of the two featuring William Shatner, it's the one, Nick of Time, is the one that people talk about less.
Right, right. It's mostly Terror at 20,000 feet.
Which,
It's Nightmare at 20,000.
Oh.
how dare you?
Oh,
How dare you?
jeez.
Didn't we go over the list of things not to do at the guest? Like, correct them?
I only know this because it was a trivia question once, and I had to argue my face off that it was Nightmare, not Terror.
Because I think
like,
everyone does think terror. Anyways, the
of the
carpet.
Now we
Alliteration.
know it's definitively Nightmare.
Yeah, the carpet wardrobe on,
Yes.
on the monster on the wing. By the way,
Yes.
that's Shag, right, from the '60s.
It had to be, and not quite as effective as that kind of ponytailed thing that John Lithgow faced off in the remake, which I loved as much as the original.
Yeah, yeah, for all the new reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite episode of the Twilight?
I like the After Hours, where Anne Francis comes back to return the thimble that she bought for her mother and realizes that she had no business buying a thimble for her mother because she doesn't have one because she's a mannequin.
Yeah.
That one blew my mind, and we actually homaged that in a Star Trek episode that I wrote
Oh.
called Course Oblivion.
So, did you set out? At that point, you're on staff
On Star Trek.
on Star Trek.
Yes, yeah, well, yeah. They had an old submission policy where you could submit a spec script, and then they would say, oh, come pitch to us, and then, which they dissolved because they were getting sued, frivolous lawsuits.
Because they would ultimately use or be accused of using something that was pitched and.
If you did a story about the Borg Queen and somebody pitched a story about a Borg Queen, then they would sue you because they own the Borg Queen, but they don't.
Which is why we're never supposed to accept unsolicited material.
It's very dangerous.
But Star Trek said, screw it.
Well, because there was so many different versions of it, they needed as many ideas as possible coming in. They set up a venue to get as many ideas as possible.
Yeah, and how old were you when you first submitted?
25.
Yeah, kid.
Yeah.
And other than being a fan and other than working on the idea of a career, I mean, how advanced did you think your skills were at that point at 25 when you were pitching to this open policy?
Well, it was I knew, actually I didn't want to be a writer until I was watching an episode of Deep Space Nine and I kind of saw the matrix and the code and I was like, oh, that's how they tell the story and that's where they turn the story and this is, oh, I understand this, I can do this. And I sat down and I wrote one and submitted it and then I got invited in to pitch.
So you were watching it as a fan.
Yes. Huge fan. I had all the action figures, still do. They're in my garage, and lost many a date.
Sure.
With them.
Yeah. Well, that's what they do.
Oh, they're repellent.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And so you saw this Matrix, and prior to that, it hadn't dawned on you to have a writing career?
No, I mean, I wanted to be a director. So I went to USC Film School, right. And that was my my goal. And I kind of knew that writing was hard.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to do it,
right.
Because I thought, oh, that's a lot of work. Whereas directing is interpretive, and you don't have to create from scratch unless you're an auteur. And so I thought that was the easier route. And then writing found me.
It did. It just literally appeared as a matrix.
Yeah, it was like, oh, I understand what they're doing. Before I would get sucked into the story and I would be an audience member, and then I finally kind of peeked behind the curtain and saw the wizard at work.
Which is a magical moment for anyone.
Yeah, a little epiphany.
So they said, come on in and pitch to us, and you went in. Now that's, as you now know, its own matrix, how to pitch.
Pitching is terrifying.
Yeah, and it's everything.
Yes, you got to tell a story. You got to get them excited.
And quickly.
Yeah. And I fortunately was pretty scrappy, so I would write up pitches, and I would write up paragraph after paragraph, pages of pitches, and I would go to the Paramount lot and say that I was a messenger, and then I would find the Star Trek offices and slide them under the door. Like once I had an in, I would prepare these pitch packages and keep sliding them under the door. Every week I would turn in like 20 pitches before I even got on staff, and they were like, well, you should just come on staff because you...
Those were the days, by the way, that you could fool the Paramount guard by saying, messenger.
Yeah, exactly, and I did.
Yeah, take note, would-be writers, that shit will not work.
Yeah, I thought it ended with Bugs Bunny. I thought he was the last one to pull that off. Turns out...
You Candygram.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man, that's pretty amazing.
It was ambitious. I didn't realize, and I would stalk those offices.
Right.
I would get onto the lot, and I would go into people's offices after hours, and I would read the boards of what they were doing. I remember standing in Michael Pillar's office, going, I could steal everything, and they wouldn't know,
right.
But I didn't.
It's probably because you didn't.
Yes.
That you were then invited in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. They don't know.
Nope.
I don't know if this is the first time
Until
I've chatted
now.
about all the...
And we cracked you. And
Yes.
I can't believe it only took 7 minutes.
Right.
Sam, you put the over-under 27 minutes.
I did.
Wow.
I really guessed wrong on
That
this.
was a record.
This is going to cost me.
Lewiston, Idaho, the record says is where you're born and raised, in Clarkston, Washington. These
Yes.
are made-up places.
They seem like made-up places, but it's the Lewis-Clark Valley, and it is essentially, the Clarkston, Washington has the highest percentage of welfare recipients per capita in the entire state of Washington. So it's a very small town. There's a bullet factory, and
Sure.
a Pepsi factory, and a pulp and paper mill, and that's kind of the industry.
Oh.
So it's very Twin Peaksy. It had a very specific point of view on life, which was interesting to kind of grow up through.
I mean, Twin Peaks is dark and...
There were like, for instance, in I think it was like 1980. There was a victim of the Green River Killer, and a young woman
From there, or...
that was in Lewiston, and she was last seen being picked up on a brown van, and then she was chopped up into little pieces and thrown off the bridge, and we would pedal our bikes out to look at the bloodstains on the bridge. So there was some pretty twisted stuff, and there's a great documentary called The Confluence that was about those murders and young women who went missing and were found later diced.
Pretty, and we're thinking perhaps seeds were planted.
Well, it was all part of the whole Stephen King. I was obsessed with Stephen King
Right.
and Clive Barker, and I was a voracious reader, and I loved horror. So it was fit right into my imagination.
Top 3 favorite horror films would be, in no particular order.
Rosemary's Baby, The Shining, and Poltergeist. Actually, I love Poltergeist.
Excellent choice.
It's a great movie. It's a perfect movie.
It is a perfect movie.
They shouldn't remake it, but they're going to.
I know.
And the cast was amazing. It was funny when it was supposed to be funny. It was scary when it was supposed to be scary. And it got me. Like when they said the house was clean, I thought it was clean. It wasn't.
Yeah, they lied.
And it has an amazing, I think one of the best pot smoking scenes in film ever, with the parents like just
Yeah.
chilling in the bed, smoke a pot. I don't know why. It's
And
just
in
like a
terms
great.
of the well-timed comedic relief, also, when he rolls that TV out into
Yes, at the very end.
It's a great movie.
It is a perfect film. I love it too. I also love Rosemary's Baby as well.
Rosemary's Baby, I do that little sing-song la 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 thing all the time.
Yeah, it just inspires you every now and
Yeah.
I
then.
love how like you think like Chuck Grodin's gonna say like, oh, she could trust him, she could trust him, he's totally gonna save her. And it's like, no, he turns on her.
We're going to be fine now, is what you say.
It's an exercise in paranoia.
Honorable mention for The Exorcist?
I love The Exorcist as well. Ellen Burstyn
Yeah.
that movie works because of her and
Yeah.
like the emotional relationships that she has with her daughter. It's a great sort of like I have a bad teen through the prism of possession.
But we have to believe her performance 100%.
Oh, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And Linda Blair is amazing too. But it's also a great film. But I only had 3 choices.
I understand. So
I
it's an
did only
honorable
give
mention.
3.
Honorable mention.
I would if we had 5, it would have been in there.
Okay, great.
One of the more surreal moments for me was I was doing stand-up somewhere in America and doing the morning radio to promote the gig, as one is asked to do, and I'm happy to do. It's part of the job. And, you know, another guest is waiting to go on. And it was Linda Blair, who was appearing at a Halloween extravaganza. Someone had built a haunted house in this town, and they had paid her. That was her, you know, personal appearance, gig that weekend.
Sure.
No performance, just wave.
And signing cans of split pea soup.
That's
there
clever.
you go.
Right?
That's clever.
I got one.
Pretty good.
Campbell's?
I possess a Campbell's split pea soup signed by Linda Blair. It's one of my first possessions.
No pun intended with the possession.
Yeah. Oh, nice. So here's a rather serious question that I meant to start with, so forgive me. To your knowledge, and based on what we all know on the subject, did the fictional character known as Wimpy in fact receive his salary on Tuesdays?
Well, you would assume that he would get paid at the end of the week, so he may have just been pathological to get whatever he needed to get. So he's probably an addictive personality.
That's exactly what the answer is.
Is it?
That's uncanny. Yes.
Is it really?
Yes. Yeah.
Yay!
Well, I mean, the short version is Wimpy's a dick, but
Right, yeah.
yeah,
he is a
yeah.
dick.
You want to?
That's the version we were looking for.
No, he's pathological.
He is
Yeah.
pathological.
He's a drug addict.
Yeah, he's clearly a habitual addict.
Well, you know, if you are a foodie and you love milkshakes, your brain will do the exact same thing that a heroin addict's brain will do when he sees heroin. Like the exact same thing, the same neurological patterns. the
You're
same-
saying this from research.
Yes, yes. Like so, if you're overweight and you love your milkshakes, your strawberry milkshakes, your malteds, if you look at that, your brain does a dance. It's the same dance that the heroin addicts do when they see a pile of sweet, delicious heroin.
Yeah. Well, one could argue which of the two is sweeter and or more delicious.
I
No.
like that he said, you're malteds.
Malted.
I love a good malted. A vanilla
too.
malted is good.
That I like, you're malted.
You're malted. I like the Martin and Lewis, if I may. So, I'm interested in another moment for you. So, as a writer, you're on staff and you're working at Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and working your way into the pantheon of this franchise. As a child fascinated by the show, and then you find yourself in the world, how long does it take for that shine.
Surreality.
Yeah.
It never quite went away. I remember the first time driving onto the Paramount gates as an invited guest of
Not a messenger?
of the production, and not like lying about who I was. Was pretty amazing. And walking around the ships and the corridors and standing in the turbo lifts was, it was amazing. And I'm a small town kid, so I don't think growing up watching movies I even understood that they were written the way that I understand them now as a writer. And I think most people sort of assume that the actors come up with the dialogue.
Sure.
So I was somewhere not necessarily committed to how they got made, but just more happy to be in the audience watching them. So to be there and to be a part of it, and I had an encyclopedic knowledge of all things Star Trek. Like it was...
And still do.
Less so. It sort of like has been replaced by things, but I used to be able to talk about the Romulan politics to a ridiculous degree.
Right.
How's your Klingon?
Kapla.
That is correct.
That's
Again-
the first word that popped into my mind.
Again, that was the correct answer.
That was the correct answer.
So far, it's really remarkable.
Batting 1,000.
Have you done any Star Trek? It seems that it would be right up your alley.
No, I haven't. And
Are you a Star Trek fan?
of the original?
Of the original, but
Yeah.
none of the.
I had a problem with Next Generation, and then unfortunately that keyed me out for all follow-ups or continuations or variations. My problem with Next Generation, admittedly, is silly at best.
What is it?
Captain Picard,
Because.
wonderful actor,
Yes.
Word is.
fantastically hilarious for Seth MacFarlane,
Yes.
doing voice work. It's the creation of the role of Captain Picard, and then the casting of an actor who, as life serves up, is a man without hair, a bald man. So you've got this, cancer, no more. Bald, sorry.
Maybe it's sort
By
of
choice?
Punk. He's got, like, if you're going to be bald, you want a skull like that.
You do. He has a magnificent noggin. But as a man who had started losing his hair, and that show coming on, and this...
There's no hope in the
there was
future.
a moment, exactly, still even then.
Right.
We can build ships to do this and cure that, sorry,
I don't see anybody in a wheelchair.
right?
Right.
I find it hard to believe that you would have been a Next Gen fan if they'd cast a young Alec Baldwin with his thick, full
Thick,
head of hair.
Tom Skerritt.
Sure.
Yeah, give
Or
me Tom
Skerritt.
Skerritt in that part and the whole...
And you're in?
Is it all Tom Skerritt's hair, though?
Ah,
Is it?
let's hope not.
Because, I mean, I think it was, like, 70s, 80s. But is it
Alien?
now? Alien is that should have been in my top 3 answer, because that's
That's one of the great haunted house movies of all time, Alien.
And the reason I am in this industry and not psychology is that movie.
What, I need more?
I was studying to be a psychologist. I was fascinated with human psychology, and I took an experimental psychology class that was essentially you have to do your own experiment. And my experiment was: do you get more out of a movie if you understand the psychological subtext of it, or as a popcorn viewer? And I used Alien. It's a haunted house movie, or is it this Freudian illustration of a family unit that goes to decay because of the betrayal of the mother? So you have a penis-headed monster that enters into a family unit and destroys it with the mother's permission.
Wow.
There's vagina-shaped doors.
Sure.
The alien spaceship is shaped like fallopian tubes. So there's all sorts of
The
crazy...
word mother is used
frequently. And she betrays her children
utterly.
to a penis-shaped monster.
Penis head.
Penis
if I
head,
may.
yes.
The
Yes.
entire
Well, how
monster-
does your penis work?
The entire monster is not shaped like a penis, if I may.
Yeah, it's well. Yeah. So that was that, and then my teacher was like, "Go to film school. Get out of here."
Seriously?
Yeah.
Because you were able to break down the structure of the story and the essence of the experience as a filmmaker would, as opposed to a physician.
Yeah. He just I was coming from a place of wanting to tell stories and fascinating with the layers of story, which I apply to character. And so,
yeah, but you really did, you work through the psychology of that
right,
piece.
as like a 19-year-old.
But more so than in a cinematic way, if you ask me.
Right. Well, the symbolism was all cinematic. It was all that H.R. Giger, fantastic, sexy design. A lot of tubes,
Yeah.
a lot of tubes, a lot of boobs.
Yeah.
So that's what did it. That movie.
That's pretty fantastic. I'm liking that a lot.
I love that film.
Yeah.
And they just, and Kenner released that 18-inch Alien in 1979, and now they found the molds of the Star Wars size action figures, and so they're releasing those now.
From Alien.
From Alien. So you have a little Kane in his space suit, and a little Tom Skerritt, and a little Ash, and a little Ripley, and a little Alien.
When do we get these?
I ordered mine at Comic-Con.
You went this year.
Yes, yes.
Let's jump ahead and to that moment, please. And then we're going to take a question from, we have live questions coming in from the audience watching now. We're going to take a question in a moment.
Hello.
But I'm very curious about your experience at Comic-Con because, I don't want to assume you went there with the show.
Yes,
Hannibal.
but I would go regardless.
Exactly. So do you go ahead of time to enjoy your own damn version of Comic-Con, or
I kind of squeeze in the floor for my shopping needs to get whatever comic books and action figures that I need.
a couple items you picked up this year, please?
I picked up a Chewbacca bathrobe, which
I'm going to need more about this immediately.
It's a big fuzzy brown,
Sure.
Not unlike the man on the wing of the plane in Nightmare at 20,000 feet.
It looks like a shag carpet from the 60s?
Yes, but he has a bandolier strap and a little pocket on the side, and it's a bathrobe, and it's super comfortable.
Wow.
So I got that, and then
It's a perfect Life Day gift.
It is a great Life Day gift. It's a good celebration of Life Day.
Nice.
That's a good call.
Yeah, she's full of them.
So,
As it
like,
were.
as we go to the home world of
Akashic.
Yes.
I mostly know that from Star Tours, though.
Oh, okay. Not the actual.
Well, both, but yeah, that's why I think it's embedded in my brain now. It's because of Star Tours.
And singing B. Arthur. The Christmas, the holiday special, the Star Wars holiday special.
We only made it 38 minutes into it?
Yes.
Before
38
Star Wars
minutes into
reference?
it.
Yes.
Yeah, we had a gathering at the house, and we only made it to 38 minutes.
Oh, it's painful.
Yeah, I
It's
think it should be
painful.
some sort of prison furlough. You have to
Yeah.
get through this. And then
Is it more painful than Phantom Menace though?
Well, I'm going to say yes, it is.
Yeah, I would agree.
Because if
I
you
would
give
have
me
to
a little
agree.
bit of an English language, I will forgive. I will forgive.
Right, there's a lot
An
of
hour's worth
growling.
yeah. Oh man, it's just challenging. Because if you're not warned ahead of time and you're just watching, like I imagined that Christmas
Oh, it was.
when people tuned in.
I was so looking forward to it. I was really excited to meet Lumpy and gosh, what were the
Izzy?
with Izzy and Lumpy
Izzy's the
and
grandfather, I think.
and what was his wife's name? What was Chewbacca's wife's name? Lubaka? Was
I
it
don't want to
like?
be an asshole and say Mrs. Chewbacca.
No.
could be.
Corey's about to correct me, I'm sure.
Okay, good.
Okay. So, yes, but did you make it to B. Arthur singing?
I don't think we did. Did she sing in English?
Yes, she sang in English. A throaty English.
Well,
And only a way she could.
yeah.
what
yeah,
else
yeah.
could she do?
Well,
It was almost rapping, a little bit of rapture, a little Debbie Harry rapture, but
I'd say maybe put that in the first half hour to keep people tuned in, but they didn't.
maybe they thought the Wookiees were more appealing.
Oh man, I just kept waiting. They're not gonna. They can't do the whole show growling, can they? Yeah. The answer is
Yeah, subtitled.
It's Itchy was the grandfather.
Itchy.
And Lubaka was the wife.
So I was Lubaka.
Lubaka, yeah. This is Corey telling me this.
Oh.
I was close with Izzy. I think I said Izzy because that's my friend's dad.
Itchy's good.
not bad at all.
The itchy lot.
So you got the robe.
I got the robe and I got those. They styled them as the 1979 Kenner Christmas special for the Star Wars figures because they didn't, or 77, where they didn't have them manufactured in time, so they give you a little figure stand without the figures, and they say we'll mail these to you later. So I got those. Those were the big purchases.
The stand was made in '77.
No, it was all replicated
Based
from
on.
the how they released the Star Wars, which was the early bird special.
Oh wow!
So you could send away for them. So I'm fetishized the 77 to 85 action figures of Star Wars. I have them all in little acrylic cases, sealed on a bookshelf, and it's dazzling to some and sad to others.
Well, what's important is that it makes you incredibly happy.
Oh, when I'm sad, I'll just stand in front of it and
Yeah.
smile
Yeah. Well,
with a whiskey.
that's pretty fantastic, by the way. And then, is that it on the purchases while you were there?
Those were the big purchases.
Okay. So then is there a Hannibal panel?
We did a Hannibal panel, and
Who all attended?
It was myself, Hugh Dancy, who plays Will
Will.
Graham, and David Slade, who is our director, who directed the pilot and a couple of episodes, and is directing the 2-hour season opener of season two. And Martha De Laurentiis, who's been the matriarch of all things Hannibal for the last 20, 30 years. When was Manhunter? 86? So since 86.
Wow.
That was her first.
What
foray.
was your experience like watching Manhunter the first time?
I loved it. I loved that it was so aggressively stylized, and
Yeah.
it was kind of Michael Mann off the leash.
Yeah.
And
One of the first times I remember thinking this was Michael Mann Unleashed as well. Yeah.
and it was visually stunning, and I promptly went out and got the book when I found out, oh, this is based on a book, I want to read more. And so that's how I got hooked on Thomas Harris, who I think is, have you read the books?
Yes.
Red Dragon's a great book.
It's amazing.
And it's purple. It's poetic. There's a lot of poetry that he uses in the description.
Oh,
so
yeah.
It was neat to see that. He kind of like backed off of that in the later books, but the poetry of Red Dragon is actually exemplary.
Yeah. It's very specific in that book to a storytelling style that almost strayed and then not to be returned to. Like it was a poem he was writing to Red Dragon while writing Red Dragon.
Well, you could see like the hunger as a young writer.
Right. Yeah.
In a great way. Like somebody who really had a point of view, someone who was choosing every word carefully, every phrase carefully, and it's a neat read. And then you read Silence of the Lambs, which is a fantastic book, but not quite as purple in its prose.
Nowhere near.
No.
No. In fact, to me, it seemed like a conscious decision to change, to shift, to start anew.
I wonder if it had something to do with like a male protagonist and you want to counter that with a little bit of poetry because you don't usually get to do that. And then when you have a female protagonist where you might want to be a little more purple, he's pulling that away. I wonder if that had anything to do with it. He's a recluse, so I have never actually had a conversation with him.
Has anyone ever had a conversation?
Martha has a great relationship with him, and I'm like, does he even watch the show? And she's like, yeah, he loves it, and that's all. Yeah.
That's all you need to hear.
Yeah, that's great. I don't need to hear more. Yeah. I'll stop there.
Because
Stop.
more might lead to opinion.
Notes.
Yeah,
Notes
exactly.
that have to be addressed.
Yeah. See, now I'm dying to just jump into the Hannibal portion, but I'm gonna slow it down and annoy everyone who's also waiting, because I watched today which I missed, the pilot for Dead Like Me.
Oh.
And thought this should have ran forever.
It's 10 years.
Which is ridiculous.
So we should remake that.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk afterwards.
Okay. You can play Rube. You can take over Mandy Patinkin's role.
Hello. Wonder Falls, loved because I too worked with
Talking Tchotchkes.
Carolyn.
Oh, Caroline Devana.
Yeah. Just spectacular.
Isn't she like a
And
she's
showing
sweet.
up now on Hannibal, which is wonderful.
Sweet soul,
Yeah.
and really, really funny, and has a purity to her that is also kind of corruptible in a fun way because she's game for everything.
Right.
Yeah.
We did a strange comedy together, a Canadian production, Niagara Motel. And my character was this sleazy guy and she's a waitress who's just trying to get her to agree to just do a couple of soft porn films, just a couple, just to get the bankroll going, and then, you can worry about the rest of your life. just an awful hustler, and the innocence with which she could play that comedy and make it real, I found sort of wildly different than most actresses in the way they would have approached that.
She's appealing. She's different.
Yeah,
she's
that's
different.
what I
She
mean.
doesn't have sort of a traditional feminine aura. She's there's a bit of a tomboy there, but she's gorgeous. She reminds me of Carolyn Bouquet from For Your Eyes Only, the crossbow wielding Greek vengeance-seeking.
What an amazing pull that is.
Yeah.
I hadn't drawn the parallel, but there it is.
It's the eyes
she's
and the
got a
jaw.
haunting beauty, and yet you're right. There's something completely off-kilter and not right.
It's other
Yeah.
in a fantastic way.
And so when you sort of found her as your lead in
Wonder Falls?
yeah, in this show that, I mean, that was kind of a big deal for you, again, that show and launching it, and finding that actress was kind of everything.
She was the show.
Right.
And so to have somebody that had those skills and that accessibility playing kind of a dick, the character's a dick. So, and there's no way to make her unlikable.
Yeah.
Like she can, drown kittens and you would still be like, but oh, she's so nice.
Well, so casting all the time and knowing that this is the engine that's going to drive your show. I've been on the other side of it a few times, where you know what you want, you're hoping someone comes through the door and blows your mind. I like to just make offers to people who are amazing, because I think the auditioning process is designed to fail.
I agree.
Because you're asking someone to come in for 2 minutes in a nerve-wracking situation where they don't have the job. And they're
To
gonna
donate their time.
Not only that, but they're supposed to show you what you can then get from them on the set when you've given them the job. Those two mindsets and demeanors for an artist couldn't be further apart. The chasm between them in terms of the quality of the work they're going to do. So the people who can come in and actually pull that off in an audition are magicians, and often, the fact that you're going to see the same confidence, that's the word I was looking for, the same confidence you're going to get from that artist on the set, in the sandbox playing.
Right. Because they're trying to get the job, they're not trying to embrace the character.
Right.
Which are counterintuitive.
There's no actual way to be in the moment.
No,
As a-
not under those circumstances.
So for you, when someone like that comes through the door, and that's going to be the engine that's going to drive your show, how many actresses did you look at, for example?
a lot.
I would think so.
A lot. And the first day of casting is depressing, because
You're never going to find anything.
Yeah, and worse, you're like, I am the worst writer in the world.
No one can say
This
these words.
Sounds horrible. It's not like no one can say these words. Like, these words are horrible,
Right.
and they'll never work in anybody's mouth.
Wow.
So it's the casting is depressing for everybody. It's a traumatic process. Pilot season
Oy.
is horrific.
You don't
There's-
have to tell Sammy.
It's horrific.
And what is this change now? I'm still bitter with the testing process.
So in terms of
But you-
Now you go into a room, they put you on tape, and then they send your tape off to the network.
There's some in-person testing, and then there's some they still do the traditional. You'll come in and do it for the people. Which is more painful?
Oh no,
the
I much
camera?
prefer being in the room with those suits.
Right. So you can wink.
So I can get some feedback.
They're
from the
shooting a
room.
screen test, though. It's not like being put on tape for an audition that's been going on for centuries. There's a thing where they're screen testing just a couple of people in the leads of parts with the director of the pilot and maybe an actor or
Showrunner,
two
the
that's
writer,
already
yeah.
been hired,
Yeah.
versus where actor goes into a casting director's office and gets put on tape.
Right.
It's a vastly
Sure,
different.
but here's my problem. So I go in and I read in front of the suits, and then the next guy comes in, and then we both leave, and then the chief suit in the back goes, I don't know, could that first guy maybe do it with an accent? And then the director comes out, he goes, listen, Sam, I want to see you again, but this time do it with an accent. Can't do that if I'm just seen on tape.
Right. Right.
Which
I'm-
do you prefer
I'm
as the
handcuffed.
person watching talent?
I prefer to have the person in the room so you can see, because there's what the camera sees,
And
and then
give
there's what
notes.
you see.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
See how well they take direction.
Right. You have to give them
work with
feedback.
It's everything. I can't believe they do it that way now.
It's the whole pilot process is traumatic.
Yeah.
For everybody.
Yeah.
It's no fun. Agents are like a feeding frenzy.
Horrible.
They love it. They love to bait offers
Yeah.
and that they know are going nowhere, but they'll tell you like, yeah, there's a chance, make an offer, because they like to collect them.
Yeah.
And some agencies are worse at that than others. And then you're doing test deals for people and they won't commit to the test deal because they're trying to get more money for the actor. And so you'll be on the day of the tests and you won't know if you have anybody showing up because none of the deals are closed.
Sure.
Because all the agents are holding it till the very last minute, hoping that you'll blink.
And then how about just the whole pilot process from a creative and writing standpoint, which is not until we're a series up and running will we find the actual musical rhythm of this show.
Right.
You're going to base the entire hopes and dreams and history of this project on what will be, most likely, its worst episode. Of the first season, anyways.
It should be the worst episode.
Exactly. If you succeed
Right.
in
It
the
should be.
brilliance of the show, then you've grown and evolved from that first one. It's so rare that so I'm curious, I guess, then, because I know for actors it's a bizarre experience, and it's nice to hear from a creative standpoint the other side of it.
It's bizarre for all of us,
Right.
and it's one of those things where everybody's just so used to doing it the way that they've been doing it for
Well, that's it.
decades.
That's the problem.
Nobody wants to change.
80% of the pilots fail. The whole system's designed to fail. So
Right.
why are they holding on to this dinosaur? I remember being one of the few times I was on the other side, executive producer, co-created the thing. We've cast it, we've shot it, it's all great. We're now testing it for the audience. And you bring a little group, and they sit in the air-conditioned room for free soup, and they watch the thing, and there's 12 of them, and then like 12 angry men, they talk about it afterwards, and you're literally watching through the two-way
Oh, yeah.
glass. And the guy who I named Skeletor, who was running the whole system and owns the company that does the testing.
In Burbank.
Yep.
Yeah.
Is talking about this, that, and the other thing, and I said, so when does the next group come in? He said, no, just this one. I said, what are you talking about? He said, yeah, we just used the one. I said, I'll go into a town as a stand-up and do 5 shows. I will potentially face 5 completely different audiences. You want to talk about psychology, you want to talk
Right.
about the social phenomenon of a mechanism, of an organism, of an audience watching together and what happens. These 12 people are meeting for the first time and they will decide? Because I get 4 or 5 different responses to routines that work consistently, and how?
It makes no sense. So have you read this book, Blink? It came out like 10 years ago. There's a great chapter on audience testing in Blink and why it fails. Like anything that, and they're talking about music specifically in the book, but it kind of applies to everything. If you are giving people who don't have a vocabulary to discuss intelligently what they're seeing, if they don't have an understanding of storytelling, you are automatically imbuing them with an expertise that they do not hold. So, as that psychologically, if you're giving us power, we're going to look for the negative things so we have an influence to correct it. But they don't know what they're doing,
Right.
and they often have really bad taste. So,
And the point you make about they're looking for something they can correct to empower themselves is the core of the problem.
and it's basic psychology. And so audience testing does not work on anything that is different. It works great for 2.5 Men because you understand that that is a basic sitcom format. 2 guys in a situation where they have to create a family out of abnormal circumstances. You understand you have a vocabulary to address that kind of sitcom. Something like Wonder Falls or Pushing Daisies are the shows that I like to do, which I like to put an orange cone up where people have gone before and do something different, because you got to.
It's exciting.
Yeah, they never test well.
Right.
Because people don't have the vocabulary to say like, okay, so he touches them once and they come back to life, and then it doesn't make any sense.
Right.
And although in Wonder Falls when we had the lesbian kiss, we saw all the dials go up, as they often do with a lesbian kiss.
As they should.
Absolutely.
Speaking of the Pushing Daisies, we had Barry Sonnenfeld here, who himself won an Emmy for directing the pilot.
He did.
Yeah.
He did.
12 Emmy nominations, 7 Emmy wins, and within a blink, ABC said, we're good.
The numbers that we went out at, we would have kept us on the air. Now.
Sure.
But we were on that sort of descent of audience erosion where everybody was figuring out, like, how do people watch TV anymore? That's another thing. The Nielsen ratings are so outdated.
Oh, my.
And have no...
But at HBO, Showtime, some cable outlet where the demographic is different and the numbers matter in a different way, take those nominations and say, you see, we're not TV, we're HBO.
Right.
Whereas ABC says, we are TV, and Emmy, 7 out of 12 wins first year. Now, you made history, but it's just not the kind of thing we're looking for.
Right.
What?
And we had a couple the second year, too.
Yeah.
It's a frustrating process.
That you keep coming back to.
Somebody described me as that little gymnast who falls off the balance bars and sprains her ankle and then just gets back up.
Will not be stopped.
No.
Because there's gold to be
I just
had.
wrapped that ankle. Well, I have stories to tell.
Yeah.
And, you know.
Yeah, but there are cable outlets now
Right.
where 1 million viewers or 2 million viewers is fan-fucking-tastic.
Yes.
Mad Men averages what, 1.8?
Yeah.
If that.
Yeah,
If that?
Yeah. It's Battlestar Galactica, which is one of the best science fiction film or shows of the last decade, had 1 million people watching it.
Right.
And it was amazing. It was on Time, the cover of Time magazine as one of the best TV shows.
Right.
Yet only 1 million people watched it. Only 1 million people that were calculatable watched it.
Did you have a deal with one of the networks in terms of Hannibal? Because you clearly had designed something that the networks weren't accustomed to embracing in terms of visuals.
Yeah, I was doing Mockingbird Lane.
Right.
Which is a remake of The Munsters for NBC at that time, and in order to do Hannibal, it had to kind of be with NBC because I was in first position on Mockingbird Lane.
Right.
So they kind of dictated where I could do and what I could do. So if we had taken Hannibal to another network, they could have held me hostage if they wanted to. But the more important issue was that they promised me at the time, we will creatively back you. We will let you tell the story that you want to tell.
And for historical purposes, they did.
They did.
They have.
They did.
They do.
They backed us creatively. Programming didn't really back us.
Right.
They were afraid of the show, and
Sure.
they were afraid of advertising. And you sort of look at what Fox did with The Following, where they were promoting it 3 months in advance and had crazy series of ad campaigns because they were like, we know exactly what this is, we're standing behind it, and we're pushing it out there. And then NBC program was like, it's scary, we don't know if this is going to work. And so you really need to have a network get behind you to make a difference.
Yeah.
And if they're...
Is the show on Thursdays at 10 before it to fail miserably to open that time slot up.
Right.
You're not talking about Do No Harm, the one you were in.
Oh, I had no idea that it was in the same.
How was
slot.
your Do No Harm experience?
It was wonderful making it. Everyone involved was tops. David Schulner was amazing. Peter Schreiber
No
was
bottoms?
amazing. No bottoms. No, everyone was wonderful, and it was the most epic fail. It was the lowest rated mid-season launch of any show in modern television history.
And what did you attribute that to? Like, was it...
Key art.
Yeah. That was...
What is this?
He looked like he was giggling.
Pasquale is wildly handsome. This is not how you sell that.
No. And it's a tee-hee. It's a girly tee-hee for a monster.
Yeah.
Tee-hee. Yeah. That's every time I saw that poster, I just went, tee-hee.
Why?
Yeah.
Dr. Facehands.
Yeah. The key art was not good.
Key art was not good.
By the way, you can sit around and mock all you want, but if it's so painfully obvious, how during the process are people not able to come forward and say, no, don't put that out?
You can. You
Put
can.
the hands in front of the face.
The first advertising that we had, when they were showing us proposed advertising for Hannibal, they had a milk carton with somebody's face on it and Hannibal having a cup of coffee. And I was like, so he's eating children and
Missing
using their milk in his coffee. I was like, we should be going back to kind of a Dutch master's oil painting, because he's Hannibal Lecter and he has an elegant. So they listen. Like, if you sort of step up and give them a point of view,
Right.
they want to be your partners. They want to collaborate.
Well, marketing, as it turns out, in television and films, and probably books, and every form of media, is now everything. Maybe it always was and I wasn't paying attention. But more so than ever, it seems. The way you say, get out in front 2-3 months, the way the following did.
Right.
Let people know in the right way what's coming. Get them excited.
We had 3 weeks. So,
I remember it coming out of nowhere as an image on the screen and just thinking, how do I not know what is this now?
Right. Right.
That should not be my introduction.
No, you should have seen some fancy meal on a magazine and it said, tuck in, or something.
Right. Tell me that, I just love this one. Let's go over a couple of things now. We're going to dive in. Jose Andres,
Yes.
What wasn't clear also in the marketing was, the Hannibal Lecter you were told about when you first met him when he was incarcerated, that he was this? Let's go there and meet him as a younger psychiatrist who's a cannibal. Let's jump in there. That wasn't at all foretold. So you decide, since he's a cannibal, since one of the leads of our show, if not the titular, if you will.
Yeah, literally titular.
Is a cannibal and an elegant man in beautifully handmade 3-piece suits who enjoys his time in the kitchen. Let's go ahead and bring in James Beard awarded Master Chef to be our culinary
consultant.
Yeah. That's fucking genius. When did that epiphany hit you? I mean, it's painfully obvious now. Yes, of course, that's what you do.
I had been a fan of Jose's for a long time, and I'd watched a show in Spain, which is all about like Spanish cooking, and seen him on Top Chef, and loved his passion. He's such a passionate guy, and I can show you videos that he'll send of himself in meat lockers, and they're pornographic enthusiasm for the meat in a great way. So it was the first thing that once they called me and they said, we want you to do Hannibal, I called my agent and said, how do I get in contact with Jose Andres? Because he's got to be the food consultant on the show.
That's one of the first things you did.
Yeah. Like straight out. And they're like, we actually represent him and he just won the James Beard Award and there's a party on Tuesday. Come with us.
Oh, gosh.
So I did, and I said, they were like, oh, Bryan's working on a Hannibal show, and he did the teeth-sucking thing, and the Chianti, and he said he loved Silence of the Lambs, it's one of his favorite characters, and he said, you have to make me your consultant on the show, and I was like, well, that's why I'm here, is to ask you.
Oh, wow.
And I said...
Before you got a chance to ask him, he asked you!
He was volunteering.
That's terrific.
And I said, what can you eat on the human body? And he said, everything. Everything is edible. You can emulsify eyeballs. You can grind bone.
I like in an interview you said the lungs are already smoked.
Yeah, that was all him, pre-smoked, and he was talking about like stuffed sheep's vagina,
Sure.
which is a Spanish delicacy. So of course it wouldn't be sheep; it would be a human vagina, and that you would be stuffing. And there were.
When it comes to plating, where else are you going to go?
Right. Is it? Oh gosh, I was going to do the reference to who's that? Tommy, the guy who liked the plate dancing.
Oh, right.
Yeah, which is a different kind of plating.
Nice.
But so he had all of these great ideas just right off the bat, and was so infectiously charming.
Yeah.
And everything had a story behind it. So I'll send him an email and say, I'm working on a scene. Hannibal's having Dr. Chilton over for dinner. We know he's going to eat him at the end of Silence of the Lambs, and he's a feisty character with a sharp tongue. And he's like, well, you have to serve goat's tongue, and you can talk about this reference that the Romans used to kill flamingos just for their tongues. And so he has he has a much grander expertise in the culinary world than I do, so I needed an expert.
The kind that you would want the character of Hannibal to have.
Yeah, I don't know as much as Hannibal does, but
Right.
Jose does. And he's great. He sent me a picture of a bowl, and he was like, it's my birthday, I'm eating this. So I will start with his testicles, and then I will eat the rest of it. He's amazing. He's an amazing guy.
Yeah, what a phenomenal aspect of the creative process for you
It's inspiring.
It's got to be. I mean, he's one of your main muse in terms of fulfilling. Oh God, the Hannibal character from beginning to end is about
Consumption. Yeah.
And the way he chooses to. I guess consume the spirit, but it's more than that. It's, I mean, you've obviously done great research, so perhaps you could fill in some of the blanks that my brain is struggling with. But it isn't so much about the hunt and the kill, is it, as much as it is about the dining?
Well, I think
Post.
it's the presentation, and I actually since doing this show, I've thought a lot about.
Probably too much.
Eating?
Sure.
Yes, and what I put in my body, and actually just before we started, I passed kidney stones, which was a terrible, painful, surreal.
Really? Because I've only heard good things.
It's, well, the Dilaudid or Laudolin, whatever that 10 times the strength of morphine, that was interesting and fun, but nowhere strong enough.
Yeah.
But so I had to change some dietary things about rich proteins that I'm putting into my body and that sort of thing, which made me research animals and what kind of animals have heavier proteins and things like that. And then through that, researching emotional intelligence of animals and how pigs are essentially people that just don't communicate the same way. So I can't eat pork now. But what I loved about Jose is that he made no difference between animals and people. It was meat is meat is meat is meat, and if you're going to eat an emotionally sophisticated, intelligent animal, why are you getting all bugged out about eating a human being?
Right. Yeah.
So I kind of, not that I'm promoting cannibalism, but it's...
I think you are, but it's okay.
It's as valid, if you acquire your meat humanely.
Right.
There's...
Well,
that's the rub.
Here's my favorite quote, and Jamie, I think you'll enjoy this. When I'm at home preparing my own food, it's all gluten-free or fish, and it's healthy. But when I go to someone else's house, I'll eat what they put in front of me because I don't want to be an asshole.
Right.
Could you imagine such a person?
Don't even get me started on this. Because I've had it up to here with people's eating habits.
But specifically when they come to your
Just eat
home.
it.
Yeah, you should.
Don't even get me started on the I have to provide a vegetarian option, but they don't have to provide a meat option. Don't even get me started on that.
It's true. It's, if you're invited to
Bullshit.
somebody's home. I understand, if you have celiac disease and you can't have gluten, it's going to, bloat you out and put you unconscious. And eating is a personal choice, but if I'm going to somebody's house and they've honored me as their guest and they've prepared a meal, you would be a dick to turn up your nose at a plate of good food.
Hello? I just love that.
Do you have any fancy eating restrictions or anything like that? Anything goes?
I don't. I mean, I just have a few things I don't particularly like because my mom was kind enough to boil every vegetable and serve it without flavor, texture, or nutrients. So I had to relearn things, just basic things like corn.
We probably had the same mother because she was...
What's the deal?
I think it's that kind of...
Convenience?
Or that era, that sort of post-war, save everything, everything's
Oh, it's in a can.
Right,
Look.
Canned chicken. My mom loved serving canned chicken. And so, it's... I was a very thin child, and I didn't eat a lot, and when I discovered what vegetables actually taste like, it was
ridiculous.
The clouds parting, rays of sunshine.
Okay, so there was another thing I wanted to ask you about that I stumbled across here, that Fullerverse. I'm excited about Fullerverse. Are you excited about Fullerverse? But before we get to that, when did you first draw your logical conclusion as to why no one suspects that Lecter, what Lecter is, because he's essentially a European dandy, no different than our American Fraser Crane? I thought that was a pretty spectacular way of you to. I'm quoting yourself back to you, but I don't know that anyone really kind of thought of it that way.
Well, I think because everybody's coming in with the point of view that he is the villain.
Yeah. So how do we not know that he's the villain? And you said because no one ever looked at the psychiatrist and said
Fraser Crane's eating people.
Fraser Crane's eating people.
but that's kind of who Hannibal is. He's sort of nice and
has a sense of humor.
eccentric, and he smiles from time to time, and he has an accessibility. So I wouldn't suspect him. I would just think he was a groovy, intelligent guy that had great flair in the kitchen.
It might only be his uber intelligence that would undermine his character and make him even slightly a suspect, but that's attributed to his profession anyway.
I think it's because it's all an audience issue, which I think is great because the audience knows that there's a bomb under the table.
Exactly.
And like, when's it going to go? But in the characters in the world, they would have no reason to suspect him because nobody suspected that Frasier and Niles were up to no good.
Right. Well,
That
I think
dog.
people did, but they liked that.
Yes.
They liked that idea.
Yes. It's a fun brand of no good.
Yeah. They had the cad in them.
Right.
Yes, because it is brought to your attention, got to be ad nauseum, that if you are to maintain the intelligence of Jack, and you are to maintain the intelligence of Will,
They can't suspect.
they can't. Not only can they not suspect, it can't be on the radar. It can't be a notion that even passes through them.
And that was the great thing about working with Lawrence Fishburne, who is so protective of the Jack Crawford character because, Scott Glenn played him in Silence of the Lambs, and Scott Glenn was one of Lawrence's uncles on Apocalypse Now. Like, he's this 14-year-old, 14 and 16, he was making Apocalypse Now with all of these great actors. And so he had looked up to Scott Glenn, and then when Scott Glenn played so definitively Jack Crawford in Silence of the Lambs, he's like, I would love to step into those shoes. So that's the reason we got Lawrence Fishburne, and he was always very dedicated. Like, he would call up if there were something in the script that betrayed any sort of suspicion. He's like, I don't want to say that because if I open that door, then Jack Crawford looks foolish, and Jack Crawford has to look at Hannibal as his friend.
Yeah.
First and foremost.
Yeah.
So even now, like after the events of the first season, where some bad things happen and Will Graham is now under the microscope, Jack Crawford still has to say, boy, Will Graham, he screwed both of us, didn't he, Hannibal?
Right.
And that's got to be his attitude. Otherwise, he's a big dummy.
Yeah. What a fun line to walk, I hope.
Oh, yeah. And that, like, we got so lucky with that cast. Talk about the casting process being surreal in and of itself. The hardest one to cast was Hannibal. And
you had seen him from the wedding.
After the wedding, which I loved, and I thought he was great. And then, of course, seen him in Casino Royale and knew
but
who
everyone
he was.
thought of him as this villain with the eye patch.
Right.
And you said, no, after the wedding is when we see a sympathetic.
Totally emotional, and The Hunt, he's absolutely brilliant in. He plays a school teacher who's falsely accused of molesting a student, and they destroy his life, and it's terrible.
Yeah.
But he is amazing in it. I hope he gets nominated for an Oscar because it comes out this year.
Oh, wow.
So he's applicable.
Certainly. I threatened with a question from a fan who's watching, and I should get this in.
Just the one?
I know. First of all, Gina Torres are they still together? Because when I knew her way back in the day, one of the things that I was on the other side of the casting, cast her in a pilot, and just have thought the world of her ever since, and she was with Lawrence then.
Which project was it?
It was called The Underworld, created by myself and Christopher McQuarrie, who won the Oscar for The Usual Suspects. Yeah, because he had only won the Oscar 6 months before. You get 1 year to hold the trophy and say, I'm the guy. And in that 1 year, when every studio said, because he was 26 years old, every studio said, write us The Usual Suspects. He was actually young enough to say, no, you guys all want the same thing. I'm going to go create a television show, which didn't make any sense to anyone in 1996. I happened to be standing next to him when he said it. So anyways, because of the trophy, though, all 4 networks are bidding before there's even a pitch.
Right.
So we pitched 4 networks in 2 days. All 4 networks said yes. NBC was the only one who greenlit a 2-hour pilot in the room. Now, when you go to network president school, the first thing they teach you is, do not greenlight a pilot in the room.
Right.
We have to negotiate with these idiots afterwards. You can't say yes in the room. We can't.
It's nice when they do.
Sure.
I was just about to say, didn't they do that with Hannibal?
Well, yes, they did.
Yeah.
They did, and that was direct to series.
Direct to series. That is a rarity. That is a diamond.
It's a tricky proposition because it can bite because we had written 10 scripts before we started filming, and then what the direct to series notion does, which is arrogant, is it kind of negates the contribution of the director and the cast.
Oh, wow.
Because when you get all of those things together, you want
That's when it takes
magic
shape and
to happen.
evolves.
And you see, like, oh, that's the attitude that Will Graham should have, and that's who Hannibal Lecter is, and that. So it changes everything. We threw out all 10 scripts and started rewriting immediately. It was a horrific process because it was like we're writing a different show than what we've just been delivered, and what we've just been delivered is so much better than what we're writing.
Wow.
So all of those scripts went out, and we just rewrote everything as it was, as the boulder, the Indiana Jones boulder, was right behind us and threatening to crush us at any moment. And
That's exciting, though.
it was exciting and traumatic.
Yeah.
Because, like, if it were...
And also, you had accomplished such a great thing by having those scripts ahead of time. So you thought.
So we thought, but it was, what's best for the project at that time, and there was a lot of pressure to just do the scripts, and it was like, that's not the best version of the show. That's like, the cast has actually upped the ante, and David Slade had really upped the ante with the mood and the tone, and there was more sort of like frothy lightness, like fun in the BAU, and like, isn't it fun to be inside a corpse, and that sort of stuff that was just completely tonally wrong. And it was a great learning curve, but it was one that I drove a lot of people crazy, and I was like, oh, they're going to fire me because I'm throwing out 10 scripts and rewriting them as we go.
Don't let me forget to come back to the notion and creation and execution of a new to me storytelling device, the way that you're showing a profiler with the windshield wiper,
The lightsaber.
pendulum.
Right.
Yeah. I want to come right back to that.
Put a pin on that.
At SassyGal09, a lovely Twitter handle, if ever there
Sassy
was
Gal.
one. Which episode of Hannibal Season 1 was your favorite and why? And do you have a favorite moment between actors?
Favorite...
They're your children. Why must we?
Yeah, how can you?
But that's that you like. Do you have children?
I've seen them.
Yeah.
I'm sure it all works out on paper.
Right. But like, you have kids. I know people who have children, and I know which one's their favorite, and I know which one they don't really like. So that's a fallacy because you don't want to answer
Ain't
the
that
question.
true?
I know who has multiple pets, has a favorite and
Yeah.
favors that one pet.
Yeah.
Everyone I know.
But it's true with children, too.
Yeah.
Absolutely it is. I feel bad for my
My
brother.
sisters hate me because they claim that I'm the favorite. And I'm like, it's just because I'm not around all the time.
And you were the youngest.
And I'm the youngest. But
Yeah.
that's all it is. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm never home. My mom sees you all the time.
Were you the favorite child, Sam?
I don't know. I was a problem for a long, long time growing up. I think they only they like me now just because, like Jamie said, I'm far away.
Right.
They see my brother all the time. They never see me. So when I come home, it's like, hey, welcome back. It's like, all right, get over it.
But the theory has to be true for the most part. So, okay. So in answering Sassy Gal 09, favorite episode Season 1 would have to be?
It would maybe the penultimate episode or the final episode, because the penultimate episode, everything happens. Like, it's sort of all of the plot threads that we've been weaving through the season got to pay off in a great way, but the finale has like the action figure that I want, which is the Stag Man, the Wendigo, or Sweetie Swag, the Nightmare Stag, as he's called in the fandom, which I adore. And probably one of my favorite moments between actors would be Gillian Anderson and Mads Mikkelsen in therapy in the penultimate episode, where she's saying, whatever you're doing with Will Graham, stop. And we get like, oh, something's going on.
Do you get chills writing a moment like that?
Sometimes I'll get chills. I'll cry when I'm writing. You know, sometimes I'll be like, oh, so into the character, because you do have to hypnotize yourself. Sort of, and if I'm ever kind of going, what is this scene about? I'm thinking about events and not like emotion. I'll sit there and go, okay, I am Will Graham. I am walking into this room. This is how I feel, and I'll just have to kind of hypnotized to get into the character's headspace.
Yeah, because getting to that thing that I wanted to talk about with the visual design of storytelling that the show instantly grabbed me as a viewer, and I'm sure others. You know, we've seen the world of the profiler told. We may have even gone inside their thoughts and had them played out for us. But I don't know that we've ever seen the way that you've created the visual story.
Them actually doing the killing.
Right. And the way that the moments unfold are a very sort of visceral, impactful thing that I don't remember in television viewing.
Oh, good.
No. So, not to put too fine a point on it. So, as a writer, when you need to be in the vacuum, you are in fact going on Will's journey before we see him go on that journey.
Right.
So when you first come into the room with the gun drawn and the stairs and the thing and the guy coming down and is it all being painted out like that first and foremost?
Well, there's a line in...
For you?
It is, because you do have
Are you playing that visual...
Yeah, oh yeah.
First person video game?
Yeah. Yeah, you kind of have to really like put on their skin.
Yeah.
And with somebody like Will Graham,
Pun intended.
Yes, exactly. There's a writerly metaphor to what he does.
Yeah, he's writing
a character.
And yeah.
And so for me, there was a line in Red Dragon where he says, you know, he goes to the Leeds house, which is the first family that he's investigating. And he centers himself, and in the darkness of his mind, a pendulum swings until he like syncs up with the mindset. And I thought we needed to see that pendulum on camera, and it would be a great device to sort of decriminalize the scene and actually see the killer kill with the criminal profile, to actually get how traumatic it is for somebody like Will Graham, who's on the spectrum, to seriously think about killing. And it was something that I worked with William Sadler on Wonderfalls, and he was telling me one anecdote on set where he was in the Green Mile, and he was the father of the children who were killed, and he said that he never wanted to do a job like that again, because every day he had to come to work and think for 16 hours that his children were horribly, horribly, horribly murdered, and it wasn't worth anything. And I just thought, like, that's what these people have to do.
That's their job.
And so you have to imagine yourself killing people. And there's one episode the episode that actually gave me nightmares, where he kills the nurse. It's the Eddie Izzard episode, and we come out of this brutal murder, and he's sort of shaking and wiping the tears from his eyes because he just imagined horribly murdering someone. And I thought that's what you should feel. Like, it's so easy to point a gun and like shoot somebody and see them fall down without any kind of blood spray, that I think that's what we see mostly on network television with regard to violence. Mm-hmm. And that's as desensitizing and corruptible as anything that is visceral, because we're showing the blood on Hannibal, we're also showing, they're like, it's terrible. This should be terrible. You should feel bad about this. It shouldn't be easy for you to watch, because if it is, then we're part of the problem.
Absolutely, and you just sort of hit the thing that is instantly mesmerizing about the show, that it's not easy to watch. And boy, what an unusual experience that is for a broadcast network television show.
I think that's why they're so cautious with it.
Right.
Like I'll say it again, our creatives couldn't be more supportive. The people who...
And the programming people are freaked out beyond.
They're terrified of the show.
Is it true? I read this in the research, and boy, was I enthusiastic about even the realm of possibility. The announcement for a second season is made after the upfronts for NBC. You already had a couple of offers, at least, from other people saying, if NBC drops this ball, we fucking want it. That takes a little bit of the onus off, but you kind of want to continue where you jumped in, and your ultimate goal is a second season at NBC.
Right.
But also, someone at NBC says, look, we know about the 5 million people watching after the fact. It's the 2 million people that are tuning in live that the ad sales, which is what the upfronts is all about,
right,
that's a problem for us. So if you don't mind, we're not ixnay on the ICUP pay.
Right.
Was that conversation had before they went to New York, or at some point during the process?
It was filtered through to me by a couple of sources, but Jen Salke, who's the president of entertainment at NBC, has been really, really supportive of the show and really wants to do a quality show. And because if they sort of do something that is a critical success and then they shoot it in the leg in front of the zombie horde, it's just going to go down. So she
like
wanted
the
to,
geniuses at ABC with Pushing Daisies.
yeah, they were like, and that was also the writer strike, which was such a tragic misstep for this industry. And as a writer, like I think, like retrospectively, I think we can all say that it was a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
But some people will still say like, no, we had to stand up, and yeah, we did. But there's a difference when you bring a knife to a gunfight. Mm-hmm. And that's essentially what happened.
Those union walkouts and strikes will actually never work again.
No.
Not in our lifetime.
No.
Yeah, they're a great reason that they happened, but the world in which they used to happen, they actually had an effect. And now you've got a conglomerate that's so huge that 17% of their annual income for the company is this little thing called show business.
Right.
And they're much more concerned with the dock strike in Brazil over these fucking truck drivers
Right.
than they'll ever be about, oh, we get to not worry about show business bullshit for 9 months?
Right.
Great!
They
Go fuck yourselves. That's fantastic for us.
We're going to
We love a hiatus.
Yeah, and they'll just collect the interest on the money that they would have been spending.
It'll never work.
And no, it really, and I think the WGA leadership was, their intent. Everybody's intentions are always good. Nobody sort of sets out to be
their own
foolish,
agendas.
right? But there was no chance we were ever going to win that, and it was kind of made perfectly clear.
Let's hope it's the last time.
I hope so too, and
let's hope everyone learns what we're talking about now, because we're not the only ones who it was painfully clear to. Now, jumping back into
right.
Hannibal. So it filters to you.
It filters to me, and Jen had called me at one point, and she's like, we really want to do this show, and I really want to pick it up, but you would just have to be patient. And so that was what she said to me directly, and then other people said,
Here's what that means.
Here's what that means. They want to steer around upfronts because it is all about ad sales, and they can't
brag about the numbers.
Right, and there were the programming people who wanted to cancel the show.
Sure. Who
didn't want it to pick up because there's many heads of the Hydra.
And there's new things coming in that they think they can sell.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was really Jen's way to protect the show, because if she put it forward like, we have to pick this up based on its critical acclaim, they were like, well, that's not good enough. So she was doing the show a favor by stepping in front of it and saying, let's park this conversation until ad sales is no longer part of...
And knowing that support is there, knowing that the phone call comes to you personally, but also knowing that with best intentions, network presidents and executives have to be able to have that conversation and actually mean something else.
Yes.
So you never really know if Santa Claus is real or not.
No, there was no guarantee.
Yeah, until Christmas morning.
Right.
And then you'll find out, well, that was Dad making the train set.
But I'm glad I got a train.
Bet you got the fucking train. So what do you do when someone says your show is the most pirated television show in the world right now?
Is it? That's great.
Yeah.
Part of me thinks like, okay, piracy is bad and that's terrible. The other part is that people are watching the show.
Well, those are the two things you're supposed to think.
Right.
Yeah.
So
and in that order, if I may.
And because we were staggered, and so we come out in the U.S. first, and a week later we're in Spain and Asian territories, and we're like, it's bonkers in Asian territories, which is fantastic because Asian horror like really kicked American horror in the balls in a great way and got everybody to kind of up their game.
Now, how is the network not excited about that? Doesn't it behoove them that a continent is excited about it?
The studio is very excited.
Hello?
But the network
Doesn't get anything
it's
from it?
domestic. They get a little bit more now. I think that was part of the negotiation. But the studio is very happy because internationally we're doing really well.
Right.
And then domestically we're sort of, hobbling along, and we've got this really smart, dedicated literary fan base. And one of the things that was cool about Comic-Con is that the core demographic is young women.
Yeah.
which I think is great. We had so many drag Hannibals and Will Grahams at the panel at Comic-Con, where they had the little coffee ground stubble and all of that. And it was all
that's fantastic.
young ladies.
Yeah, I just read a big thing after The Conjuring did so well. One of the fine New Line executives plays at our weekly poker game. Sammy, the other Sam.
Yeah, Sam Brown.
Yeah. And I told him about this article I had read, that a statistic you must know, and he knew, that was sort of an eye-opener for me, which was a movie like The Conjuring surprising everyone and doing so incredibly well, and is even more exciting for a studio, is that the core audience of that is younger women. You would think it's younger men. I would foolishly think. But it turns out it is younger women.
Women love genre. They're more open to genre in a strange way. Like all those plates, those Star Trek plates that they were making forever, women buy that stuff. Women are kind of the
But horror in
ambassadors.
particular, that was the part that surprised me.
Well, because they often have strong female characters, like as a
Ripley, going back to
Ripley,
Alien.
Laurie Strode, Heather Langenkamp in the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, and you got Amy Steele and a slew of horror films from the '80s.
Our
and
own
Adrian
Jamie
King.
Lee Fitness.
There's a lot of strong female characters, and it's usually that Survivor is a strong female character. So I would get why women
That does make sense on that level, sure.
would respond to, like, oh, here's a great role for a woman in a horror film where I don't have to play the girlfriend because my boyfriend dies in Act 2 sometime and I'm still running.
Right.
So I think that's an appeal, as well as they love the charge, the adrenaline, and horror movies are opera.
Yeah.
They're very, it's operatic storytelling. Stakes are never at their highest than they are in a horror film. So I think, and they're also, young women are very literary. They're more apt to be readers.
That's what you were saying about the Hannibal audience.
Which is great for us because we had we had our big panel, and then we had a smaller panel the next day where we had a whole bunch of prizes and like things from the show. And we were running out of time at the end and said, okay, so we have 10 prizes left. Who can tell us that quotes from the books that we used in the show?
Oh boy.
And they went left and right. People were racing there. Like everybody knew, though, that's a line from the book. That's a line from the book. And it's really neat to see because you want the people who are watching your show to be smart, because then you're like, well, if they're not smart and they're watching it, then like, what do I win in terms of their respect?
Sure. I mean, there's the storytelling aspect that's fun and exciting from the point of view of the profiler, as I mentioned. That's new, that's exciting, that's visual, it's visceral, it's all pretty great. Then you've got the wonderful acting, which is amazing. Then you've got the legendary character of Hannibal. But more important to you, according to the research, was the literary reverence and respect and homage. And
because I'm a fan of the literature, and
it's where it starts for you, that poetry.
And
that purple.
Yeah, the same for Star Trek. That's why it was so great to work on Star Trek, was that I was a fan of it. It inspired me in great ways, and so the Hannibal Lecter story, particularly Will Graham's story, inspired me. And there's a really interesting thing with with some of the young ladies with the slash fiction of the show, where they want the shippers want a Hannigram relationship. They want Hannibal and Will Graham to be in love, and there's all sorts of fan art, crazy fan art, crazy good.
Right.
But there's like comic book pages where Will Graham, and these are talented artists.
Sure.
Will Graham's asleep and he throws back the sheets and there's Hannibal Lecter between his legs gobbling up his crotch, and it's hilarious.
Sure.
But it's also like, run with it. Like run with it. Run as far as you can get.
Yes, please.
And it's kind of like straight guys who like to see two women have intimacy.
Right.
The
lesbian kiss is now
the cute boy kiss. I think there's something about that that's interesting, and psychologically, I'm like, what are the motivations? Are they like, okay, if they're interested in each other, then I don't have to compete with another woman, and then it's not an issue for me, or is it just he's hot and they should be together?
Yeah. Or
can you fill us in from a lady's point of view on guy action?
I tend to not like pretty boys, so.
Pretty
I don't
boys
know.
has never been your look.
What are you talking about?
Thankful for me.
Cut from marble. Kevin Pollak over here.
Well, what kind of marble you use in the
So I
bathroom?
don't know. I never understood male strip clubs, because it was that's not it's shaved chest and they're all buff and it's they're pretty and most of the time they're gay anyway. So I never understood that. I'm if I want to get turned on, I'll go to a comedy club, right, Kevin?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
What a team of Harold Ramises dancing
Yes,
around.
exactly. Yeah, pretty much.
So point one, heterosexual woman not attracted by homosexual men dancing or kissing, but.
Well, that's just not my look, though. I don't think it's not. I'm disgusted by it. It's just not. That's just not my look. I like.
It is a strange dichotomy where men allegedly get off on the lesbian kiss, whether or not the two women would ever. The fact that they're not interested in the voyeur,
Right.
doesn't matter to the voyeur's mind. It's still hot,
Right.
and it is a strange thing. I've never heard. It must exist, but I haven't heard much.
I was a little surprised at how passionate they were, and I love it. I think it's fantastic.
Right.
Like anything that gets someone enthusiastic about the
Well, of
show,
course.
I'm
Please.
fully supportive of.
Yeah.
So it was interesting, and so there were questions about, do they love each other? Is there love? And it was there can be love without physicality.
Yeah, or sexuality.
Right.
I mean, even though it's more water, please.
Yeah. Sure.
Okay. Even though it's as powerful and
Thank you.
and potent
Right.
as sexual heat, if it comes from a place of intelligence and emotional,
It's as penetrating as
Literally.
any digit or
orifice.
phallus.
We'll be right back. Okay, so this is also great.
Can I?
Please.
Not
I found
to-
my
not
I
to-
found my place. So jump in.
Okay, I don't want to stray off of Hannibal if you're still keeping with that.
Well, we'll come back to it.
Okay, I just wanted to talk about Heroes real quick.
Right. Yeah.
Which I was a great big fan of. First season, second season, and I know you came in towards the end of season 1, right?
I was all the way through season
you
one,
were through.
and then I came in at the very end of season 3.
Okay, that's
Came back.
And after Pushing Daisies was canceled, they were
Right.
like, "Come back and play with us." And then I did, and sort of did that cold snap episode where Ali Lauder froze everybody.
Oh,
and,
right.
And
But you did a Company Man, right?
I did Company Man, yes.
Which was as many people, that's our favorite episode. That was a tremendous episode.
Thank you.
So I was just curious what that whole experience was like, since that was that show that was everyone was drawn to that show right when it started. And
It
that a
was.
rarity.
It was an interesting experience. There were so many great writers on that show,
Yeah.
and also sort of higher level writers. So it would be there were several show running entities that were working in collaboration, and because the nature of the story was multifaceted and you were following several different characters, we all sort of divvied them up, and I wrote the cheerleader stuff, and I loved writing for Hayden and Jack Coleman, and then there were writers who took Hero and followed his storyline. Everybody sort of had a character that they wrote, and then we would compile those scenes and then do a pass through them. And because Company Man was sort of it was the first time we did a singular story.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of fun just to kind of focus on those characters for the first time over an entire episode, as opposed to writing an 8-page story that goes into another script that is kind of merged in. But it was the most fun I've ever had writing a show. Because my responsibility was purely creative. I didn't have to worry about producing it and making sure that everything looks
Yeah.
exactly as it needs to look,
Yeah.
and I loved that first season. It was a really creatively satisfying experience.
Well, I'm glad to hear it. It was creatively fun to watch.
And I'm working with Jesse Alexander, who was one of the best story breakers I've ever worked with. Works on Hannibal as well, so
Fabulous.
it's glad to be in business with him again.
Yeah, cool.
Glad that you like that show.
Yeah, no, I'm one of many. That show had
it was
a very devoted
really
following.
good show.
Yeah.
Yeah, the audience was rabid, which is all you ever want.
And what's interesting is that was sort of a lesson in really doing something multinational. That we got so much, once again, out of Asian markets because we had a face that they could identify with.
Sure.
And so it's smart to realize that we're not just playing in the U.S. We're playing all over the world, so it's great to be multinational and multicultural, and that's something that I'm working on a Moon show right now for the Sci-Fi Channel that we start filming, and it's very much multinational. We learned a lot of lessons from Heroes to
In terms of casting.
yeah.
So getting back to the relationship between Will Graham and Hannibal Lecter, Hanagram, you were asked about the shame that Will Graham feels about his ability to feel what the killers do, and you're very articulate about his awareness of, I can understand it, so does that mean there's a little bit of it inside of me?
Right.
So, while I agree that his shame is crucial for A, we the audience to understand his mental state, and 2, root for him to prevail because he does feel shame, therefore he's more like us, isn't his very ability to feel shame something that is never present in a true sociopath, and wouldn't he know that?
Yes.
No, that's all I was looking for.
Well, I think there's
I
something.
wanted to think beyond my pay grade, and it happened.
Right. Well, sociopathology is fascinating because because they're really good at faking those things. And they're not necessarily always so consciously sociopathological. So they're not sort of like, I'm a sociopath, so this is what I'm doing. It's how they're wired, so they don't necessarily understand it.
The lack of self-awareness,
Right.
I believe.
And sociopaths are usually pretty self-aware of what they're doing as a manipulation, but they don't understand what the
consequences or the feeling of the...
Well, the restrictions of their bandwidth, their emotional bandwidth, it's all they're narcissists,
Right.
And most serial killers are just assholes.
Sure.
And
No.
they.
The first douche was, in fact, I believe, a sociopath.
Right. Yes, and so for Will,
Before the club scene, before the douches made it out into the bars, they started...
That's fair.
They were
dogs.
doing the dance. But I think for Will, it is he is so uncomfortable in his skin sometimes and is on that spectrum, so emotions are confusing and overwhelming, and that speech that he has in the first episode where he's talking about eye contact is really difficult because I can't tell if I get distracted, you get lost in eyes. Like I get that at some points. If I'm trying to tell a story, I can't look in somebody's eyes because it's sort of like the windows of the soul are like it's deep. It's an intimate connection. So for Will, self-awareness in that regard is fluid. I think he gets so swept up in the input that he's getting that it's hard to gauge how he is actually feeling. So he has to shut it down so he can sync up with who he is.
Sure.
Actually.
Yeah.
That's my theory. And I'm sort of, this is all parapsychology at this point because I never got my degree.
Well, but I think, I've already started the letter writing campaign because there are still 17 people who write letters to get you your honorary degree.
I dropped out of USC Film School because I couldn't afford it anymore, and then I ran into the dean, and she's like, "Oh, we'll give you a."
Yeah, don't be silly.
Right.
We've got a couple of those in my office.
Yeah.
Peter Venkman had a degree in parapsychology
He did.
and psychology.
He did. And
Saying.
will we see where that goes in Ghostbusters 3?
Let's hope.
I want another Ghostbusters film.
I wouldn't bet any amount of money on it.
That is
I would not bet
going to happen.
$1 that movie.
Well,
will
our
happen.
problem is the absolute devotion we have to A, Bill Murray, and
Yes.
B, Harold Ramis. Is he a B?
B.
How dare you?
He's #1 in my eyes.
She's the
always.
most obsessed Harold Ramis fan.
Harold
that's ever.
Ramis is obsessible.
He's a genius. He made some of the.
And
he
his
wrote or
smile-
directed- He wrote or directed some of the most important comedies of all time.
I agree.
Of your generation, for sure.
For sure.
Groundhog Day being one of them.
Vacation. He directed
Vacation.
Vacation,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is one of my favorite movies. I
Does-
keep
and
going.
his smile
Wrote
lights up-
Caddyshack. His smile could light the universe.
All right, let's just stop there. I'm excited about the future of the Eddie Izzard. Is that something you're allowed to talk about?
We
Is your
definitely
breaking stories for season 2?
We are breaking stories, and we have to figure out what Eddie, because Eddie's on tour.
Yes.
And so it's about figuring out what his schedule is. So we've had incidences where it's like, okay, we know he's on tour there, but we needed him on that episode, so we have to move
Right.
that around.
Where
And
do you shoot?
We shoot in Toronto.
I do. That's what
What the-
that's what I thought.
So are you going to be at the Soho Met in
I have
beautiful
no
Toronto?
idea where they're putting me. When do you guys get back into production?
We start September 10th.
Probably
So,
the last week of August, I think.
but we may be up there doing prep.
Pre-pro.
So you could be at the Soho Met.
And if I am, we'll have a drink
we
and
should.
some hotel bar peanuts. together.
Yes, yes.
Okay, great.
And I think there's prostitutes at that Soho Met bar.
No, there definitely are. That I know. Yeah, no, I've got an app for that.
When you say
do you-
Soho, you don't mean Sutton House.
No, the Sutton, which is in Vancouver.
Right.
Which I kind of loathe.
Sure.
The last time I stayed at the Sutton Place,
Sutton Place, that's what it is.
yeah, the building farted in the middle of the night at like 3 o'clock out of the air conditioning unit. The horrible, horrible bowels of the earth smell woke me from a dead sleep, and
It's not a new building.
it's not a new building. No.
There's something about show business north when it settles in Vancouver or Toronto.
Yeah.
And 3 or 9 different projects are shooting and staying at this hotel, and you go into the bar, and it's like a commissary. There's something about that, and everyone's away from home, so you're at camp.
Right.
There's something exciting and wonderful about that. And then the whores show up, and
There's lots of horrors. There's lots of horrors.
I will say this: the only redeeming value that the Sutton Place has in Vancouver is if you go to the hotel bar on any given weeknight, you might as well be at like a hip bar in downtown Los Angeles in like the early '80s.
well, not necessarily even needs to be
Okay,
hip.
fine.
Just a place where show
Just a
business
place
people
where
would go.
showbiz types would show up at.
Yeah.
Because it's the only game in town.
Right.
Yeah. See, we all miss Chasen's, and that's what it feels like to me. It actually feels like a commissary off of a lot.
Yeah.
Anyhow.
I went down there one night and Stanley Tucci and
The
and-
Tooch.
Tucci's everywhere. I
Tooch.
guess there's at least like 4 of them.
Yeah.
That's how much work he gets. That there
And
has to be
Aaron
at least 4
Eckhart and Minnie Driver, they're all hanging out there. They're all shooting different projects, but they're all at one table.
Yeah.
It's like, hang out.
That's what I mean.
That's great.
It is summer campy.
Yeah. Well, in an email exchange with Eddie, he did suggest that he's making plans to be in Toronto.
Yes.
So he's already working on it,
Yes. And
as you well know. I just
I-
didn't know if you could share that information with your audience.
Oh, I'll share.
But clearly you're fine.
yeah. We specifically shot him getting shot
As it were.
without a
Conclusion.
conclusion because we wanted him back, and I worked with Eddie on Mockingbird Lane, and I love him as an actor.
Yeah.
I love him as a human being. I think he's one of the great. I don't even really consider him a comedian as much as a philosopher.
Yeah.
Like he's
Well, his act became that.
it's very thoughtful, very smart stuff.
Oh boy.
And I went to a like one of those K-Rock stand-up things at Universal Amphitheater maybe a year or 2 ago, and so there were all of these new comedians and a few classic acts, and it was kind of. And somebody who has been out of the comedy loop and used to sort of love it and follow it, and then now seeing a lot of the same stuff is cropping up. Like it's old version. So like the new comedy was not as fresh and as exciting as the classic comedy.
That's
Like,
interesting.
you have like Tim Minchin was there doing who's musical, and he was fascinating and hilarious, and Eddie was just thoughtful. Like it was thoughtful stuff where there were some of the new comedians were still telling fag jokes, and I was like, really?
I know.
Like, really?
Yeah.
Like, that's still...
Yeah, we happened to go to the Comedy Store, where I hadn't been in maybe 20 years, to actually sit and watch comedy in the original room, which is a tiny little awful room with horrible bench. Oh, God. There's spring somewhere still lodged in my... Took us. And that I don't mention names, but one of the guys got up and was kind of that New York bully, misogynistic, fag joke kind of guy. And I thought, how is this still an act? How is this at all making any of you idiots laugh? We have to leave now.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's...
He had one funny thing about the airport upcharging so ridiculous that he would like to have his own garage sale at the airport, so he could say, well, yeah, it's $400 for the stool because it's at the airport. I thought that was it, though, because that was at least thoughtful and creative.
There were layers.
Yeah.
So as a comedian,
Eddie, yes.
What do you think of new comedy? Like, is that have you seen new comedy that has been fresh and exciting? Or
Well, I'm going to be seeing more because I've been hired to direct and produce this documentary about comedians, but specifically about the sort of dark side, the long-standing tradition that if you're not fucked up in the head, you can't really get on stage and say anything of import, which is of course not true, but there's still a long-standing tradition of it, of the pain and suffering that someone must go through. I've always been fascinated by how is it and why is it that you stand in front of a room full of strangers and feel the need to speak when that's America's #1 fear above death.
Right.
So how is it that you need to do that? That's fascinating because it's not just narcissism. I mean, it mostly is in my case, but not but not for your average bear.
What is the average motivation for beyond?
Some weird calling. Like maybe you got laughs at your friend's house when you were 12 or parties when you were 17, 18, and then people started to gravitate towards you, and just getting the attention is one thing. Sammy, you started as a teen, your own damn self. The attention you're not normally getting in life is probably the first. Like a lot of actors have sat here and told me that they studied at so-and-so because it seemed like a quick and easy way to get laid initially. That was so it all starts, I think, with attention or sex, and then the calling takes place, whether you're going to make a profession out of it and give everything of your life to it. That's the one big advice that I'll give if someone comes up and says, so what do I, I'm getting into stand-up, what do I need to do? And I said, put in your 10,000 hours, there's no shortcut, and are you able to give your life to it? Because you have to.
That's how I feel about writing. You have to, if it's worth doing, it's not a job, it's a career and it's a lifestyle. So
it's a life choice.
You have to commit to it.
Yeah, much like shooting in Toronto.
I was
as
up
a
there for
series.
8 months I was up there.
Yeah, as a life choice.
Yeah, and I was from the moment I woke up to the moment I went to sleep, and which I would get like 3 or 4 hours of sleep a night. It was just everything went into the show.
Yeah.
And because I didn't know how to do it any other way.
And at that point, I guess it doesn't matter where you are, except for how important it is to have those 3 to 5 hours, if you're lucky, of normalcy, if that's possible. But sleep, whether it's a hotel room or your own bed.
I got really sick of the ceiling light in my hotel room because I just saw it again and just felt like Groundhog's Day. So I would have to consciously, before opening my eyes, turn to the side so I wouldn't see that light the first thing I opened my eyes.
Wow, that's pretty heavy.
Yeah.
Another thing on the show we like to do in terms of involving the audience is to have them ask the guest a very specific chain of questions. This or that.
Rapid fire?
Coke or Pepsi. Rapid fire. No correct answers. Solely opinion. We call this a Tweet 5.
T5, T5, T5 forever.
Thank you, Dave Keckner. This one designed for you, sir, by at JWJ170104.
Really?
Not to be confused with at JWJ170103.
Oh, I know that guy. He's cool.
That guy's a piece
I don't know
of shit.
this guy.
I don't know this one. All right. Fave explorer, Lewis or Clark?
Clark.
Fave captain, Cisco or Kirk?
Cisco.
Fave snarky gal, George or Jay?
Jay.
These are tough. These aren't all
Yeah.
easy. Fave Charles, Sis, Ellen, Green or Swoozy?
Ooh,
See?
jeez.
See?
Oh,
That's a Sophie's choice.
God.
There's a gun to your head.
Ellen Green.
Nice. Fave Firefly actress, he's cast, Jewel or Gina?
I love them both.
Right?
Gina is
Your current love?
my current love.
You got 5 out of 5.
Oh, did I?
That's all opinion.
Oh, yeah. So, then I did.
Yes. Nicely
I
done.
like winning.
Mm. But how lovely that they would design these specifically
great.
for you.
And Dave Ketchner was on Pushing Daisies.
Oh shit, that's right.
Yeah, he played Merle McQuatty in our Pete's Dragon homage episode.
Oh wow.
Yeah, you guys had quite the who's who on your guest starring list.
Like Paul Tompkins and Dave Ketchner.
All of our
and-
past
There's
guests.
a Pete's Dragon homage. I love Pete's Dragon, and I get really upset in the electrical light parade whenever everyone's like, "Who's this?" And I'm like, "Get out of the park! Just
And
get out of the
they
park!
should.
You shouldn't. You don't even belong here."
Well, or you could be their candle on the water and bring them to the
I love
love
Mickey
of
Rooney.
Pete's Dragon.
Ricky
happy.
Lindholm.
Ricky Lindholm.
She's
She
great. Played a flower.
was. We wanted to bring her back as because she was playing a bulimic, and we were going to bring her back in a fat suit and have her be one of the
Healthy.
Yeah, yeah, yes.
That would have been great.
She would have loved that.
Damn it.
And I love her music.
Garfunkel and Oates?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's hilarious. And actually, I saw one of the songs, and it was about when you don't know somebody and they say hello to you. And I realized that the last time I ran into her, that I was the one that she
We're singing
did-
about?
Yeah, there were clearly a parade of people that she's like, I know you, but I'm going to pretend that I know you better than I actually do. Like
Uh-oh.
she was like, I can't place that face. So, and then I was like, I think I'm this song. And
Oh,
she was
no.
like, oh my God, I'm mortified.
Yeah, that is a mortified moment, sir. Okay, you say. At Tattle_crime says, what are your top 5 fave comic villains?
Comic villains from comics?
I know. I guess that's what that means. Because there's comedian villains, which I don't think they mean.
Or comic villains as in, Well, my favorite Batman movie is Batman Returns, and I loved Catwoman and the Penguin in that movie. That was sort of the sweet spot for my Batman movies. So, Catwoman, the Penguin. Oh my gosh. There's so okay. I've got like the Three Stooges problem where all the ideas are in the door jamb of my head and none of them can get through.
Then I'll derail you for a
Yeah.
moment.
Better Penguin, Burgess Meredith or Dick Cheney?
Yeah, Burgess was pretty great, and
Okay.
Dick Cheney's loathsome as a human being.
Now let's go to war in Iraq.
Sammy, I love it when you pass off material as conversation.
I learned from the best. Our very first
Yeah,
conversation.
seriously, zinger. You do the same thing.
Shut up.
And then I have to hear it repeated 17 times. So I'm like always going into this bit.
Eat and repeat. You just mentioned something, and I was going to derail you. The comic, the villains.
Batman.
The Batman. Oh, yes. Oh, yes, that was it. How much do you love when Tim Burton throws up on the Haunted Mansion once a year at Disneyland?
He throws up.
Oh, boy.
He vomits.
Creatively,
Oh,
artistically, takes over the ride and redresses it. Have you not been?
I have not been on there.
Have you heard of this?
I know.
I'm excited to turn you on because she, as you can tell by the computer, might be the expert on this.
I know that there's a Nightmare Before Christmas that they did that, but I never actually made it down.
Every year, Jamie, please explain.
Oh, from September until like first week of January, they changed the Haunted Mansion to Haunted Mansion Holiday, and it's Jack Skellington takes over the Haunted Mansion and makes it his Christmas.
They redress every room.
It's amazing.
And
It's all Tim
They've
Burton's
been doing
design.
it about 10 years now, I think. No, maybe a little bit, because the movie came out, I think, like in '93. So maybe a couple years afterwards they started doing this, but the
I'm-
movie part's fun.
I'm a Tim Burton fan.
Yeah.
I love the Christopher Nolan Batmans, but I prefer the Tim Burton Batmans.
Yeah.
They're a little more fun.
Well, artistically, there's this whole surreal world that's being created that feels like where you would go in a comic book.
Right. Right. It's definitely embracing the format, and the Christopher Nolan films I think are amazing, but I don't see them multiple times. I sort of see them once and go like, that's a great movie. Whereas I will, if Batman Returns is on TV or the original Batman with Jack Nicholson as a Joker, I will watch. Like
Yeah.
I will.
That's
I will
the
sit
original
down.
Batman to you?
The original Tim Burton Batman.
Sure.
Yes, as opposed to
As long as you can get Bat Dance out of your head.
yes.
As opposed to the shark.
Batusi?
Right. Right.
Shark repellent.
No. We like Adam West Batusi. I'm talking about the horrible Prince Bat Dance.
Oy.
Yeah,
we have to just erase that from our.
that was sort of the muffler was sparking.
So check out the Disney, the Haunted Mansion comes September.
September. It's I'll tell you
Look
the
it up,
exact
tell
date.
us.
No, I know it.
Did you see the Tim Burton, was it
Planet of the Apes?
13.
MoMA in New
Oh
York?
yeah,
And then
at LACMA. Was it LACMA?
LACMA
Yes.
here.
Yeah, I thought it was
Extraordinaire, right?
great. I saw it in New York, and then I saw it here too. And
Yeah.
it's what I loved about it is that you actually get to see that he knows all of the skills as an artist. So when he is, because you sort of think like, oh, he just does his thing, and that's his thing, and that's why he does it, and he doesn't actually have the root experience that every artist does, and you see
Holy shit.
how prolific he was
Yeah.
and is.
And kept these binders full of drawings.
He's a true artist.
Yeah.
And I love the letters that he sent to Disney and the reply that the lady responded like, well, your characters are a little susical, but you should keep going. I just thought that was so endearing.
Yeah.
And, we all want that magical moment of some sort of faceless support.
Yeah. Your faceless mentor.
Yeah.
And the answer is September 13th is when Halloween
September
time
13th.
is when Halloween time starts at the Disney theme parks this year.
Sammy
I
didn't.
like a longer Halloween.
Yeah. Please go. You'll love
That's my
it.
favorite time of year is Halloween time.
Me too.
Me too. Me too. Sammy,
Yeah.
didn't you wrestle in the late 80s under the name Faceless Mentor?
I did. It was assless mentor.
My mistake.
Became faceless later in the career, but
My
started as
mistake.
assless. Yeah.
Okay. It looks like another T5 has come your way
T5.
from Facebook.
T5
Angel Varak Iglar, also a name.
Hello, Angel.
Fruit or cream pie?
Fruit.
Your birthday is canceled forever for you, or Halloween is canceled forever for everyone?
As in, which would I rather?
I guess.
Yeah, birthday canceled for me forever.
You're a
Like,
giver.
I love Halloween.
You're a giver.
And Halloween is more fun than my birthday.
Jay, always. Who would have?
Always.
Kind of a, that was no choice.
This asshole right here would cancel Halloween forever.
Would you?
Yeah.
When's your birthday?
That's not,
March.
but that's also because you don't happen to.
I don't enjoy Halloween.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The costumes,
I had 3 costumes this year. That's how much I love Halloween. 3.
Do you know how people go, oh, I hate New Year's Eve. There's this forced onus on you. Like, you have to have fun plans. And if you don't, and everyone asks you what you did on New Year's. If you don't have a great story, everyone thinks you're a loser. That's how I feel about Halloween. And it's the same exact thing.
What
Like,
about-
if someone says to you, what
You
you
feel
do for
there's too much
Halloween?"
pressure.
There's way too much pressure on you. What if I just want to stay in, not dress up, and just give out shitty candy
done
to
that.
stupid kids?
that's a good time for me.
A lot of people
You-
shit on me when
you
I say
use
that.
shitty and stupid, by the way, in your one choice that you were asking for.
Yeah.
Shitty candy, stupid kid.
Shitty candy and stupid kids
Okay.
wearing terrible outfits. What if I want to do that? People take dumps on me.
Why don't you just be the Grinch of Halloween?
I am the Grinch
All
of
right.
Halloween. I just told you, in that scenario, I take it away from the world.
Getting back, if we may,
Please.
Jay Tyler or Alana Bloom?
Oh, Jay Tyler.
Kubrick or Hitchcock in a literal fight to the death?
Hitchcock.
Also correct. Ned the Pie Maker or Will Graham?
Ned.
Nice.
He's the sweeter one. And you know, I actually have, you know, the Francois Truffaut interview with Hitchcock.
No.
That's like the Francois Truffaut Hitchcock. It's just like the interviews where, you know, one great filmmaker interviews another.
Right.
And it's a book that, you know, we studied in film school, and it's a great read. I got the transcripts, the actual audio interviews of them, and we're reading the book, and Hitchcock, you know, and Francois, they seem so amicable and they get along. When you listen to them,
Doesn't
you can
sound like it.
know Francois is a dick. He's interrupting Hitchcock all the time, and Hitchcock gets progressively more annoyed as they go on. It's actually really fun to listen to because it's not the textbook.
Where did you get these audio?
Somebody had them and sent them to me because they knew I was a huge Hitchcock fan, because I collect Hitchcock movie posters, and I'm absolutely obsessed with Hitchcock.
Then that will allow us to close on one of my favorite games that I was turned on to. I didn't invent it, which is Hitchcock's love of what he called refrigerator logic. So I'd love your take on this, because watching your work, I see a need to fill plot holes.
Right.
To give everything a logical explanation so that it's grounded in the foundation of reality, and now we can go into crazy place.
Right.
Give me something to hold on to, right? So in Hitchcock's world, as a filmmaker, there's no repeat audience. It's just get butts in the seats that one time.
Right.
That's all we're after. So I love the notion of refrigerator logic as a term, that people would see something in one of his films and it would be amazing and scary and great, and then they go home and then they get up at 3 in the morning, go to the kitchen,
Wait.
open the refrigerator and go, wait a second.
Vertigo is full of refrigerator logic, because this, like, if you break that story down,
Please do.
It doesn't work. You know, it's goofy. The story is absolutely goofy, but it's told with an emotional logic.
Right.
That if you broke it down on like physical logic of what it would take for Jimmy Stewart to figure out what was going on and why he would pursue it in the manner that he did, and why he wouldn't be smarter and just sort of like call things as they were, that's plot logic. But what you have with Hitchcock in some of those cases is an emotional logic. You're following the emotion of the story.
Completely.
And if you're wrapped up in that, then everything makes sense because you're approaching it from that character's point of view. So I love emotional logic. I hate plot logic.
Nice.
Because it's too limiting.
Right.
Like if you want to see a character do things that we don't always do in real life, which is, well, we do. We surrender to our emotions and we do things that aren't necessarily smart for us. So I love emotional logic.
All right, so give me this. Psycho. She embezzles the money. She drives to her lover. Along the way, she's tired, it rains, various things happen. It's raining too hard at one point, and she pulls into the Bates Motel. She's signing in, and we meet Norman Bates, who says, "Where are you headed?" And she answers the name of the town that she's headed to, somethingville.
Right.
And he says, "Oh, that's just 17 miles up the road," or whatever the number is. But trust me, it's either 13 or 17 or something in that vein. Movie's over.
Right.
I don't care how bad it's raining. How far is it?
Oh,
That's
that's
I'm
20 minutes.
back in the car.
Right.
No movie.
Poor,
It ends.
she should have been.
That's not even emotional logic. So is it a wink, oh, she had a moment where she could have got away, or is it just this incredible logic hole?
I think it's you see that character who's driving and she's, you know,
Sure.
like nodding off at the wheel, and you're thinking like, oh God, I've been so tired or drunk behind the wheel, and you want to like get out
Yeah.
off the road. So
Oh, yeah.
that's the emotional logic
You're
there.
exhausted. The emotional is there for the audience.
But she stayed up and had some toast
Yeah, she
and,
did.
you know, ate like a
Conversation.
bird. And every time I watch that movie, sandwiches and milk. Every time I watch that movie, I just wish that she would keep going. Like I think that introduced such an interesting new style of acting. Like Janet Leigh's performance in that film is amazing. It is so subtle and it is refreshing because it was a completely grounded, reality-based version of acting. We'd seen Hitchcock's before that were slightly heightened and they had a click to their heel, and this was something completely different, and she's so bare and so minimal, and incredibly effective. I think that's one of the best performances in a Hitchcock film, and it doesn't get enough credit because it's sort of dismissed as a slasher film or a B movie, or Janet Leigh was not the actress that people thought she was. But I think that was a brand new form of acting, and it was the vanguard of grounded
Realistic,
reality
yeah.
of going into the 60s and 70s in a really refreshing way.
It's nice to hear her get that sort of credit.
She's a great actress.
North by Northwest.
I love that film.
Spectacular. We're going to kill this guy. We're going to have him meet somebody out in the middle of a cornfield. He's never met the person before. Doesn't even know what they look like. But he's agreed to meet them. We've given him an address. He doesn't even know where he's going.
Right.
But he's agreed to go there. Once we get him there, we need to kill him.
Right.
So let's spitball some ideas how we're going to kill this guy. Yeah, you. I'm sorry, what is your name? Larry, what do you got? Why don't we just swoop down on a biplane and kill him that way? Yeah, that's, out of a million, maybe the worst possible way to kill someone. Do you know how hard it is to get a plane? And what are we trying to do with the plane, actually? Cut his head off? Just bang him with a wheel? What are we?
They had the guns. They were strafing him.
Right. So, he doesn't know who he's meeting. You pull up, you get out of the car, you put a gun to his head. Good night. Get
That's
back.
it.
Yeah.
Well, it's very JFK conspiracy theorist with that. Like it had, like that guy in the plane had to have a magic bullet plan of some sort to really make that effective. But once again, you're on the ride with Cary Grant.
Yeah.
And he's so charming
Forget
and
it.
funny that whatever he thinks is the smartest thing to do in that scene, you're going to be following him.
No, him
because-
I'm fine with. It's the
It's
evil.
the killer.
It's the evil geniuses who decide how
Yeah.
to kill him.
Yeah, it's a bad plan.
Yeah, we've got him out there. He's driving. He's on his way.
And they run into the bus or
It's a fuel truck.
Yeah, the fuel truck. That's great. And then the bus gets out.
Yeah.
Like I've merged those two moments. So like the fuel truck's
I
safe
knew you'd get
now.
there. I knew
Yeah.
you'd get there.
But yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
No, beautiful poster. Great one sheet.
But the re-release is the better one sheet.
Oh.
That's the one. The first one is just the kind of graphic where he's kind of falling and he's in the target and she's shooting him. And then the re-release is the one that has all the color and Mount Rushmore and all of that. So it's the re-release. That's the better poster of North by Northwest.
Oh, nice. Nice. We love the Hitchcock.
It's talk about like inspirational.
Which of the Hitchcock films recently did you enjoy more?
I watch Psycho and the Birds fairly regularly, but Rear Window I think
No,
says
I mean the
everything.
films that were dedicated to Hitchcock.
Oh, I was told not
to
to
stay away
watch
from
them.
both.
Yeah. I like friends of mine were like, you'll be so frustrated because you're
Right.
that guy,
The one with Toby Jones.
which I hear is the better one.
Yeah, I'd say for sure.
I enjoyed both, but they were both very different.
Yes.
I'm a huge Helen Mirren fan,
Oh,
so she walks on water. So I wanted to see it, and then people were just like,
Yeah.
and it's kind of one of those things where it's like, ooh,
Yeah.
then let's do it again.
Right. All right. Well, again, you've just done remarkably well, sir. I can't thank you
Thank
enough
you.
for spending your time with us, especially given that it was only last weekend that you were in the Diego of San.
I was in the Diego San, and it was a ball.
Yeah.
I love Comic-Con. Have you been?
I've not, but I imagine.
Are you geeky that way? Are you into the pop culture and
I have my areas of interest for sure.
which are?
But I've been to gatherings. It's a slightly different thing when being able to go through unaccosted. Right. So you have your fans who know what you look like.
But I'm a writer, so
It's a
it's a different thing.
Yeah.
Like walking the floor with Hugh Dancy, we couldn't get 10 feet.
Yeah, well, which would not be the case with me, but just anyone coming up is lovely and wonderful, and I want to spend time with them, of course. But that wouldn't be the reason why I would go. I would go so that I could walk among and go in and out and see.
Yeah, and
can
you're
wear a
more of a
costume.
Dragon Con fan anyway. So don't
Let's be
Getting
honest.
down to Atlanta.
yeah.
I went to one recently in Philadelphia. That was the Philadelphia's version of the Comic-Con.
Because you sent me photos as people dressed as Spaceballs stormtroopers.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
I was like, Spaceballs!
I was performing there, and they asked me to visit the booth for the thing, so I hung out a little bit. And I found it instantly wonderful. Just instantly wonderful.
It's a place where people are allowed to go and express their passion and enthusiasm without fear of reproach.
Yeah.
No bullies allowed.
Yeah.
That's basically what it is.
They're sort of interspecies bullies, though.
There are. It's when
Kirk versus Picard.
You're absolutely right. I mean, do you remember a few years ago that guy used a pen to stab another dude?
Oh, what the
Was
hell?
it in a Hobbit screening or something like that?
I think
It was
in
in Hall
some.
H, definitely. It was
Yeah.
Deaf and Hall.
Ah, nice.
In the neck. He stabbed him in the neck,
Stabbed
didn't
him in the neck.
Well, if you're going to stab someone.
Well, maybe he was
Right,
a fan
yeah.
of Casino.
It's like, but yeah, you're right. It is a different kind of bullet. It's the Kirk, Picard. It's boys, take it down. They're
Big
both
argument-
fictional.
Big argument, too, is which trilogy is better, Back to the Future or Star Wars original trilogy. That's a big argument.
Is it?
amongst nerds.
Really?
Yeah.
Is there any of the... Because there's...
I don't know. I have friends that are like, definitely Star Wars, definitely Back to the Future. That's a huge...
I love the first Back to the Future.
Once we get to the Old West, I think we're done.
Yeah.
I like
and I love
both.
Mary Steenburgen, but, it was... Star
I'm
Wars...
just saying.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not saying which one I prefer.
We
I'm
need
just
to have
saying.
those people on the show.
Yeah, we need to stage a real
Talk
cage
that
match.
out.
Somehow we've managed to run out of time for the Who Tweeted But.
That's all right.
Oh.
Right, and I got you all psyched up about it too.
And a who tweet butt.
All right. Get
Can't you
over
just
here.
edit some of that like alarm stuff out?
Let's play a quick round of
speed
Who
round.
Tweeted. Ba-ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Celebrities have so much to say.
Who tweeted?
Is the game we're gonna play.
Well, this is going to be very exciting. We're going to do a
We'll do
quick round.
A 6.
You want to do 6?
Let's do 6.
We'll do 6.
All
We'll go
right.
to 6 instead of 8.
Okay.
All right. So here's how it works. I'm going to read a series of tweets one at a time. As I am reading, or when I get to the finish, as soon as you feel like you know who authored that tweet, you ring in by saying your own name. I will point to you, then you will have 3 seconds to say either Tyra, Paris, or Bieber.
After each tweet.
Yes, or as soon as you feel like you know. You can interrupt
Oh,
me.
so, okay. So you're going to be doing
I'm going to be
same
reading it.
tweets
He's
I'm
gonna
going to be
ring
reading
one
one
tweet
tweet
at
at
a
a time.
from the same person.
No, they're all. It's
Okay.
these 3 people mixed up.
Okay.
So
One of the 3 wrote
One of the 3 wrote
each-
each of these tweets.
And we have to guess which one.
Okay.
You're ringing, you get it right, you get yourself 5 points. You ring and you get it wrong, you lose 3.
There's a penalty for incorrect.
Penalty
answer.
for incorrect, but once someone rings in, they either get it or they don't, and we move on to the next one. At the end of 6 tweets, we will have either a winner or a tie. Are you ready to play Who Tweeted?
Tyra.
Paris, Bieber.
Okay. Okay.
There must
Here
be
we
some
go.
sort of prize.
Oh yeah, we don't fuck around here.
Oh, Andy Jackson.
Andy.
We're playing for a
Jackson.
live Andy.
Or as I like to call it, Pete Gammons. Here we go. Tweet number 1. Broke up with the gym this morning. It just wasn't working out.
Paris. Brian. Paris.
I'm sorry, no. That's all right.
These are tough.
That's all right. They are tough.
So do you get to swoop in and do?
Nope.
No.
Okay.
That's it. You're
We
it's
move
just
on to
a
the next one. But he'll
0
tell-
to -3.
He'll tell us who it was.
That was Tyra.
That was Tyra.
I was rooting for her.
It's all right. Tweet number 2. Interesting how some people in the media want to take shots at me for no
Kevin
reason.
Bieber.
That is correct.
Ooh. It could have been all 3 of them. by the
Could
way.
have really been all 3. It's all right. Tweet number 3. Today there is so much room for activities.
Kevin Bieber.
Ooh, taking a commanding lead.
Really?
Oh my God.
I was literally throwing a dart because it seemed nothing like
You
him.
threw it in the dark and you hit the bullseye.
I hit the boy right in the face.
It's all right. Tweet,
Also the name of my second book.
tweet number 4. Just went to my favorite dentist, Dr. Kevin Sands.
Kevin Bieber. Couldn't be.
It is not. It was Ms. Paris Hilton.
What was the whole quote?
Thank you, Kevin, for my bright summer smile.
Nice.
Tweet number 5. Am I the only one who doesn't like chocolate? I feel so alone!
Brian. Tyra.
That is correct!
Wow, nice.
Back in the plus column. Tweet Number 6. I think we're going to 8 no matter what. You know how I love my bacon? Well, I had a slamming BLT today. A butt, legs, and thighs workout sandwich. No mayo.
Oh my God, what's happening?
Brian Tyra.
That is correct. We are tied at 7.
Who writes that?
My God, we are tied at 7. This game is exciting.
that?
Well, we got to go now. We're going to tweet number 7 here.
Okay, we're at a tie.
Time to hit the waves.
That's it?
That's it. Play again.
That could be any one of them.
Time to hit the waves.
Kevin Paris.
No, that is correct.
Oh!
No, we're going all the way to 8. We got 8. This is it. So you basically got to ring in and get this one right.
Okay.
I will say nothing.
Okay.
The 8th and potentially final tweet. I went to the zoo yesterday.
Who writes that?
Brian Bieber.
That is correct!
Oh, that's fantastic.
Well, that was the real deal. Now we are doing the actual 9th and absolute final tweet.
Okay.
This is the tiebreaker. You ring and you get it right, you win. You ring and you get it wrong, you lose.
Wait a minute, just to be clear.
Yeah.
The previous tweet was, I went to the zoo today?
I went
Yeah.
to the zoo yesterday.
Yesterday.
I went to
That's
the zoo
why you didn't get
yesterday.
it. Because you thought it was today.
Here we go.
Who fucking tweets
Tiebreaker
that?
tweet.
I went to the zoo yesterday.
Fun at Robin Anton's house learning some sexy dance moves for my new music video.
Brian Paris.
That is correct!
The obvious
Ladies
answer
and
would have been
gentlemen,
Bieber, but you
that-
said Paris. Sir, that's
that
impressive.
is how you play and win.
Thank
Who
you.
tweeted right there.
Now, winners find a way to win, people. I've said it over and over. Oh, man.
Celebrities have so much to say.
Who tweeted?
Is the game that we just played.
That was a lot of fun.
I'm glad you
A
insisted.
shocking come from behind victory.
It really was.
Yeah.
All I had to do was jump in. That was exciting.
That was pretty
I
great.
don't care what you say, Sammy. All right, can't thank you enough for the time, for the energy, for the insight.
My pleasure. It's
Honestly
so
and
nice to
truly.
meet you in person. I've been a fan for a long, long time, even before The Usual Suspects.
Really?
I was a fan of your comedy.
Well, we'll see about that.
Okay.
Because whether or not I end up being invited to Toronto. I'm
I would
offering
love for
my
you to come to
services to
Toronto.
carry a spear for you, sir. I'm obsessed a little bit with the new endeavor. So
It's I have brought it up to the writers' room. I've come in and I was like, I would love to get Kevin Pollak on this show.
No, you haven't.
Yeah, I have.
Oh, it's
You can
nice of you
ask
to
the
say it.
writers. You should ask.
It's
the
nice of you to say it.
'Cause
I can't believe your writers are standing up in arms and protest and not allowing that to happen.
Well, we haven't even started the casting process. We've identified several like really fun roles
Oh, wow.
that we're going to stunt cast, and we'd love to get you on the show.
You know, I'll already be in Toronto, so...
You'll already be there, Sammy.
I'll already be there, so I'm just a phone. You don't even just dial within the hotel, really.
Right.
And I'm there.
6 room 602.
whatever.
Little Wolverine. You'll be checked in under Little
Abs-
Wolverine.
as
Is
I
it
always
LIL apostrophe or is
It is LIL apostrophe.
It
is,
should
right?
be as it should be.
Oh, fantastic. Well, listen. Long may you run. Long may you soar.
Thank you.
And continue to creep and delight.
Thank you so much.
Honestly.
And it was wonderful to be here. It's a delight to meet you.
Oh, thanks. Now, you're not off the hook just yet.
Uh-oh.
That's your camera. When you're ready, let me re-explain the Larry King game, and then we'll go ahead and get the hell out.
Okay.
Larry King game is we'd like the guest to recreate that moment where Larry would share something about himself and then go to the phone for no reason, and he would share something nobody needed to know. So I want a bad Larry King impression, and
Okay.
then as Larry shares something about him, and then go to the phone if the name of the city is funny sounding. It's going to help that much more. It's right into that camera when you're ready, sir.
Okay, so
Yep, I want shoulders.
trying to think what he sounds like. Okay.
Just horrible. I'm looking for horrible.
My dog's anus is it'll distract you, so I've come to bleach it. Walla Walla, Washington.
That is perfection. And if I may, I love the fact that the dog's anus was distracting. That was the word used that explained how troubling it was for Larry.
he had to bleach it.
It was a distraction. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
That
Thank
was
you.
perfection. All right, sit there uncomfortably for 90 seconds while I wrap this thing
Great.
up to the fine folks watching from shore to shore, ship to ship. Next week, as threatened, John Lovitz. If you're enjoying us on The Earwolf, let us know. TheEarwolf.com, the #1 comedy podcast in the world. We're so incredibly happy to be part of their family. I want to thank Dr. Chen, Samuel Levine, and Jamie Foxx right here inside the studio. Out there, the 3 J's of happiness. You're Justin, you're Josh, and you're Jason. And then Sonia, sitting in for Sam on makeup. Elaine Ewing, sitting in for Angie, sitting in for Sam.
Who was sitting in for Sam.
And our media maven, Elaine Ewing, getting it done. I want to thank Jason Kalkanis for giving us this fine studio space once again, and for taking a couple of our cameras with him to San Francisco. Son of a bitch. Without warning, and no air conditioning.
Oh, that one he's going to pay for.
Yeah.
He's got Jews in here. What's
Yeah.
the matter with him?
Proving once again there's no way in hell the Jews wanted the desert for 40 fucking years. That's horse shit.
40 minutes.
All right, 40 minutes tops.
Tops.
Until next time, and as always, get out of my face.